is this person in Virginia, Abdul Jallo, who had a lengthy criminal record, was repeatedly released and charges dropped by the Commonwealth prosecutor in Fairfax County, a fellow named Steve Descano. And now DHS is concerned that if this guy gets let out again, he's charged with murder for stabbing a woman at a bus stop. Here's what DHS said about him, quote, "We are calling on Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger and Virginia sanctuary politicians to commit to not releasing this murderer and violent career criminal from their jail without notifying ICE." So that's going to fall in Markwayne Mullen's lap.
You're right, John. And when I read this story, I was shocked. You know Fairfax County. I mean, it's a bedroom community. It's Herndon. It's Fairfax. People know it. It's not what you expected a 41-year-old mom, Stephanie Minter, to be brutally stabbed to death by a complete stranger. He happens to be in the country illegally. He is a so-called dreamer. He's been here since he was 9, but he's been arrested more than 30 times. But Mr. Descano, who's the publicly elected Fairfax County prosecutor, he won in 2020, he won re-election in 2024. There have been 2 recall attempts with him. Both have failed, because it's pretty hard to get people riled up about a county prosecutor. I don't think he's going to win re-election this next time, because when you let someone out of jail 30 times, including, by the way, rape, assault, other violent stabbings, they got that woman killed. Now, for the longest time, 21 years, there's been a Supreme Court precedent City of Castle Rock versus Gonzales, goes back to 2005, that said you can't sue cities when they let bad people, when they don't enforce TROs against bad people. This may be the time to test that precedent and say, Mr. Descano and his staff need to pay this family wrongful death damages, because this guy should not have been on the street. He was a known, in fact, the police department, not ICE, ICE had a detainer, should have been honored, but the police department in Fairfax County said, don't let this guy out, and Descano, Team Descano still let him out. It's a tragedy. It's also something that Secretary Mullen will look at, and I think will be able to very, very effectively. Even your guest yesterday, he's my guest often. He's a very good communicator. He'll be able to communicate what detainers are and why we need to honor.
That's a good point. I mean, you think about the moment that he's stepping into here. As the president formally makes this announcement, naming Senator Markwayne Mullen to be the next Homeland Security Secretary. For anybody jumping in on the news right now, this just in. So, Hugh, tell us about the moment he's stepping into, and you know, obviously part of this was the president's criticisms or frustrations with how Kristi Noem was handling the job, and the tasks that he will have before him.
You know, I think President Trump sometimes doesn't get enough credit for running a very tight ship. He will move the players around when he sees someone is in not the right fit and there's a better fit. And so he thought that Mike Waltz could go up to the UN, and he's done a fabulous job at the UN, and he moves people around. He is loath to give people only 1 or 2 chances. But when the time is right, and when it is obvious that the deal is not getting done and the job is not being done, he will make the switch. He's a developer. He knows how to get stuff done. And he's in the middle of a war, and he really cannot allow his administration to be taken off course by sideshows like this I don't know how much money was spent on that ad campaign. It's the dumbest thing I've seen. And I've seen a lot of dumb things in my career. But he does reach a point where he says, oh, come on.
Lay down here.
And so what will happen at DHS? I expect a new team. I expect everyone to get their resumes brushed off, because they're going to be thrown out. Markwayne Mullen has been in the House for a long time. He has a bunch of people whom he trusts. He's going to bring in a very serious group of people to do a very serious job. And remember, Tom Rick was our first DHS secretary. It was set up after 9/11. It's a very serious job, and I'm glad he's getting it. And Governor Stitt's got to line out the door of people who can be senators. There are lots of great people in Oklahoma who can be senators.
All right, Hugh Hewitt joining our coverage. Thank you very much, Hugh. All right, John.
All right, the former DHS, thanks a lot, Hugh. Appreciate it. The former DH advisor Charles Marino joins us by phone. Charles, what do you make of these changes, and what do you think was the precipitating factor?
Well, I'll tell you, this is something that the country doesn't need right now, and the Department of Homeland Security doesn't need right now, based on the threat level that we're facing here in the country. Look, the operating assumption right now by law enforcement and intelligence agencies is that the country was, in fact, allowed to be infiltrated by threats from around the world during the Biden administration. That is indisputable. We've seen plenty of evidence to support that. these distractions right now and the lack of support that President Trump is now demonstrating towards Secretary Noem just cannot be in place during this time. The safety and security of the American public is too important for this. Somebody needs to be in the position as Secretary of Homeland Security to do the work without the distractions.
Are you suggesting that Mark Wayne Mullen's not the guy?
No, I'm suggesting he is the guy. We need somebody to come into that position, someone that's got credibility, bipartisan support, to come in and treat the Department of Homeland Security as it should be led. And that is to be led by somebody who's no nonsense and is always prioritizing the safety and security of the American people and not worried about photo ops. This is not the time for the country. The threats are here. Law enforcement already has a tough enough job. We see what ICE and CBP are going through each and every day as they're trying to prioritize these public safety and national security threats and get them out of the country. This should not be a hard decision for the White House.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I misinterpreted what you said at the time, but I think Sandra might have as well. We said this is not the time. I thought you were saying this is not the time to make a change, but what you're saying, thank you for the clarification, this is not the time to mess around. It's the time to have somebody who's tough in this job. Mark Wayne Mullen certainly fits that bill. I mean, not just his status in his pedigree of being an undefeated MMA fighter. I mean, that tends to toughen you up a little bit, but the fact that he was in the House for a long time, and now he's been in the Senate, he knows the inner workings of government as well.
Well, and John, he also grasps the issues that we're facing in terms of threats against the homeland. I've testified before the senator, before. I've always found his questioning to be well thought out, well studied, and he had an understanding where you don't have somebody staring down at notes, but that knows this stuff off the top of his head. And what you need right now is confident leadership, someone that's going to be focused on the mission of the department, that knows what the priorities are in terms of the way these threats need to be looked at, is able to work collaboratively with the FBI and the Department of Justice, and, oh, by the way, has the support of the president and the White House. I cannot understate how important that is. The President of the United States sets national security strategy for the country, and the President has to have support in his Secretary of Homeland Security. And if that's not presently there, then the change needs to be made.
Charles, Senator Fetterman, the Democrat from Pennsylvania, the senator already posting to... Okay, Kristi Noem is speaking live. Let's head there.
Those elected officials and those that step up into public service is to fulfill our duty to protect American citizens, that they should come first under our Constitution and our laws, and they should be prioritized, and especially over other people who are from other countries. The Constitution demands that we treat our citizens that way, and the men and women who serve at the Department of Homeland Security, they understand the importance of that, and we also understand the importance of all of our law enforcement officers and what they do across the country to keep people safe. The department was formed after the horrific events on 9/11, and just 2 years later, as Congress put the department together with the support of the president, 23 different agencies who had a nexus and a focus on defending the homeland were put in order to make sure that they were all following the same mission every single day. So it's a very diverse department. It not only has FLETC in it that trains over 130 different federal law enforcement agencies and officers from those agencies. It also includes CBP, ICE, CWMD, which is Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction. So some of you may have gone through some of those trainings to help us detect some of the threats here in our homeland, and also some of the trainings that it takes as far as responding to fires and 911 calls in different specific situations. We have intelligence agencies. We also cover FEMA. FEMA is a disaster response agency, but it also is the agency that's entrusted to run the government on our very worst day. If we had a tragedy in this country where we needed someone to step up because our leadership was not able to, that agency would be entrusted to do that and to maintain our critical infrastructure. So they ensure that they go forward and maintain our electrical grid and our critical infrastructure such as water and systems that we rely on every day to help the American people be safe and to still have their way of life. We also have CISA, which some of you may have worked with them. which is our cybersecurity agency, which goes out and not only hunts down bad actors that would attack us on our cyber systems, but also gives us mitigation measures for how we can harden our systems. All of these entities work together to serve the American people and to make sure that we're prepared for any threats that we may face, but also respond to them in a way that honors what our ideals are. The sacred duty of our government truly is that people are entrusted to secure the rights also of all the American people. You know, the Declaration of Independence states that governments derive their powers from the consent of the governed, which is the people. The people give us the right to do our jobs each and every day. And as long as this world is fractured and as long as human nature is fallen, we will need brave men and women who step up and serve and enforce our rights and our laws and our values. And that's what all of you do in this room with your colleagues. The heroism was on full display this last week when we saw the attack in Austin, Texas, and we saw that the first responders that helped protected people and more lives there were our law enforcement that responded immediately. Instead of running away, they ran to it. And though we lost 3 lives and saw many other people injured, they prevented so many other lives from being lost. We're very grateful that they are willing to do that and to serve in such a way. In fact, it reminded me of the quote that is often attributed to George Orwell that states, "People sleep peacefully in their beds at night only because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalves."
Amen.
Which means you step up in order to protect people, and you do it in a way that other people often are never going to be required to. When tragedies like what we saw in Austin take place, it's your leadership and it's your decision making that make all the difference. You use judgment, and people entrust you with their lives. You're on the front lines of leadership, and you have the responsibility of guiding and also shaping the next generation. So we thank you for that, and we thank you for what you do.
And I thank you for your
I know that
service,
I've met
Christy.
many of you in the room. I've had the chance to visit with you.
I'm
I
sure the
appreciate your
president had his
wisdom and your
reasons for
advice as
making
we
the
continue
change.
to develop
And
trainings
maybe change
and
is
insight
good,
into how
but you have
leadership
certainly
can work
been
together
an
to make
excellent
good
leader.
decisions and to break
And
down
I
the silos
appreciate all
between
that you've done
agencies so that we
with
can work
ice
together
and without ice.
more different,
You've done a beautiful job.
in better
And
ways
we're very
than we
proud
have in
of
the
you.
past. And you know we're seeing challenges across the country from judges and courts that are working to stop some of our efforts, that are looking to take away some of the protections that you need in law to do your work. And then also we're seeing some challenges from sanctuary states and sanctuary cities. In fact, after I get done sharing a few more words, I want to hear your questions on ways that we can help you do your jobs. If you're in a situation where the laws may be a little different than it is in other states, or you may have unique challenges that perhaps we could work together on to find ways to help you bring criminals to justice and to protect your community from public safety threats. America is the greatest country in the world, and it's the greatest country in the world that has great cities and great communities. Regardless of where people live, we need to make sure that they have an opportunity to go to work every day safely and to send their kids to school safely every day.
Amen.
Sanctuary cities do give us a challenge because it makes it difficult at times for law enforcement to do their work. And we see that many times when a city cooperates with the federal government, cooperates with our federal officers, that it is safer. In fact, 7 of our top 10 safest countries in the nation are not sanctuary cities. They're cities where the local law enforcement partners with us. They partner with our federal agencies, with the FBI, DEA, ATF, CBP, ICE, and our operations. And we've also seen across the country where 5 of our 10 most crime-ridden cities do not cooperate with us, where those that are not cooperative with federal officers will see challenges on their streets. We've seen a lot of different situations from city to city. The one thing I would encourage you that no matter how frustrated you may be with some of that we can find a way to work together to do some good work for our people. In fact, even in Memphis, where we saw different leadership, we had different parties in the governorship and in the mayor, we still were able to arrest and bring to justice over 2,600 criminals, and in a way that significantly dropped their crime rate and significantly helped those communities continue to take those public safety threats off the streets. We got over 150 different illegal sex offenders off of the street. We saw one of those arrests included a criminal illegal alien from Venezuela that was convicted of aggravated criminal assault and abuse of a child. I'm thankful that that individual is no longer on the streets because of the cooperation of those local law enforcement. We have agreements across the country called 287G agreements. I'm sure you're familiar with them, but there is 3 different models that are available. One is a jail model that helps us with some detention. The other is a warrant service officer model that is extremely helpful for us to make sure that we can take jurisdiction or of an individual who's a criminal in the safety of an environment of a courthouse or a jail, and they can be turned over to ICE so that we have the ability to return them.
We're going to continue monitoring Kristi Noem's message there as Mark Wayne Mullen, we take this in live together, walks down the hallway on the phone there as he is named by President Trump to be his next DHS secretary. Let's listen and see if we can grab anything.
Let me get the letter. All right. Give me 1 second.
When did the president call you? When did he tell you, ask you?
I'll be back.
He said, I'll be back.
So here's what I'm wondering. Was he really on the phone, or was he pretending to be on the phone? Because I mean, I've done that a couple of times. If there's somebody that I don't want to talk to, who sort of comes up to you on the street, you grab your phone and you pretend you're on a call.
Sure.
That was weird with Kristi Noem, or what? I mean, I assume that she knew. And if she did, that was really demonstrating the art of compartmentalization, because she was there before the Sergeants Benevolent Association of New York in Nashville at a conference, giving a speech at the Major Cities Conference.
Well, good. I'm glad she's there doing it.
She, to me, she seemed a little rattled.
All nonsense.
Because she usually doesn't make any mistakes.
Attack somebody now that they've been let go, you know what I'm saying?
But, I mean, if
don't
she
attack
knew,
her.
Which I assume she did, she really kind of put that in a different box and went ahead with her speech.
Well, I just want to add to our reporting from the White House, Jackie Heinrich. Do we have Jackie up? Okay, so let's go to Jackie with that news, because, John, this might have been ultimately what led the president to make this firm decision. Jackie, the news.
Yeah, we're still getting bits and pieces, but can confirm that the president said that he was not aware of the ad campaign that Kristi Noem was questioned about on Capitol Hill this week, $200 million in spending that prominently featured her, sometimes on horseback. In her testimony, when she was questioned by Senator John Kennedy, it indicated that the president had authorized this expense and approved of it. And that, according to reports, upset the president, especially when they're trying to cut back on unnecessary spending, and can confirm from White House official that the president said that he didn't know about that ad and did not authorize it. So a difference there between what Kristi Noem said, under questioning from lawmakers, and what transpired here, and that might have been the tipping point.
Oh, you're looking for something to make a controversy. Get off of it.
Noem's ability to
he's
carry
changing
out her duties
positions.
as DHS
What are you
secretary.
griping with
course,
about?
Her public statements that she made in the
Quit making up things.
of the deaths of
gracious.
2 people in Minnesota, and the sort of quick statements that cast those individuals in a light that perhaps at the moment they were made weren't cautious enough. The president got a lot of questions about that and whether those statements were responsible, and up until now had vehemently defended her and pointed to the successes at the southern border, the fact that there have been no illegal immigrants caught and released into the interior of the country, improvements on things like the murder rate and overdoses as data points to
She did a beautiful job, what you need to say, lady. Quit making up anything else
will mean that Mark Wayne
that you don't
Mullen
have no facts
needs to be
on.
confirmed by the Senate.
Goodness gracious.
And it is a strange time in an administration to make a shakeup of this sort, where it's a cabinet member ahead of the midterms. This is certainly news that was not expected, and we've seen this president, sort of take arrows as other people within his administration have faced public criticism, certainly questions from Democrats and criticism from Democrats, but even from some members of their own party. And the president has, stood by them basically and not wanted to give an inch to those critics until now. So it seems like there may have just been enough reasons between
now quit making
what
up
upset
things.
him, what Mark Wayne Mullen brought to the table, and perhaps also a need for this new role that she's going into. We don't yet know too much about it, and I'm still getting more information from officials on sort of the fullness of this decision. But that's what we know right now.
Well, wait until the president has what to say. She happens to be speaking right now, and you should be showing it so we can see it, the citizens.
Quite prominently.
You did a beautiful job.
He contested that. testimony of hers.
A very interesting reporting. Jackie Heinrich, live out of the White House. You're watching a shaky cam outside on Capitol Hill as we're told that Mark Wayne Mullen's vehicle is either waiting, departing, arriving. Okay, okay. Now Noam's taking questions. Let's go back to Noam.
You sure can. Yes, sir. Yes. Oh, thank you.
Given our current state in Chicago, we understand a lot of people
right. Yep. Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. I don't know if you guys heard that question, but he talked about targeted enforcement, and Rob was saying how it's much more effective in a lot of, especially these sanctuary cities, where we can work on targeting those individuals who have a criminal history besides their legal status that may be in violation of their visa or work permit, but that we work on those and make sure we're going out and doing that with the local law enforcement as much as we possibly can. And that is something that we are going to continue to do, and make sure that we're focusing and prioritizing those individuals and make sure that we're addressing the public safety threats there. Thank you. Yes, sir. Okay, let me visit with him about it. That'd be great. Well, we're talking about doing some other tax benefits for other, so that may be something we could wrap into that conversation. Great idea. Perfect. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Madam Secretary. My name is Chris Galligan. I'm the Vice President of San Francisco Police Officers Association. First of all, I just want to say thank you for recognizing major cities and all of our police unions here across the nation. It means a great deal for you to be here today, so thank you for that. My question, local officers have increasingly been on the front lines of Homeland Security, yet we are still funded and staffed like a city responsibility, not a national one. How will DHS ensure local agencies aren't carrying federal priorities on local budgets and with local staff?
So you maybe have some challenges in San Francisco just because of your state laws and local laws. I mean, although you've got a mayor that works with us very well.
That's great.
He probably doesn't want me to talk about it a lot, actually, but he has been cooperative, and we have great conversations and talk quite often. And many times in doing law enforcement in your city, if the federal task force is coming in, you know, it's more preferable for the FBI to lead and the Department of Homeland Security to come in supportive roles, which is what we've done, and that works very well in your city. Thank you for your focus there too. I think the city is seeing some dramatic improvements under this leadership. When you talk about funding, we have tied a lot of our funding that we have for enforcement this year and prioritized over $1.5 billion towards 287G agreements. So we've reimbursed departments that have an agreement, or a county or a sheriff, with funding them on overtime or on benefits, some of the other things that we can do. We've also, on the jail model, obviously reimbursed per beds. If you don't have the opportunity to participate in 287G, I think your best options for funding alternatives would be through some grants that we have at the department. We have specific grants towards terrorism grants, that you can do some security grants, and there's hazard mitigation grants that are in Homeland Security safety grants through FEMA that would be available. So maybe what I'll do is I will forward those grant opportunities to all of you so that you can share them with your departments and have that opportunity. We also have some grants specifically targeted towards special operations. So if you've got some special operations that fit into that category, we could get you some funding that way.
Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes. Hi, Craig. Yes.
One police officer and one sergeant called Border Patrol for assistance, and then after that happened, he tried to fire them for asking Border Patrol to come assist them.
Oh, shoot.
Most recently, they just suspended both officers for 30 days without pay.
The Border Patrol?
No, Detroit
those
police.
officers in Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit police. So the one incident was the female in the house called because the husband was trying to break into the house. When the officers got there, he had a bad passport and a bad social security card. So they called Border Patrol for assistance. They ended up taking him to jail because he had a warrant outside the city of Detroit. The second one was a traffic stop. The fingerprint reader wasn't working, so they called for them to bring theirs over there, and the person had a warrant also. So both officers got suspended without pay for 30 days.
So did the officers that did the arresting, was that the Detroit officers that did it, or did the Border Patrol?
Border Patrol ended up arresting them because one had an out the city warrant, and the other one had other information that.
That's one of the things that I think a lot of citizens don't necessarily know is that CBP and ICE are law enforcement officers and do enforce other crimes that have been committed. But if we can be advocates for those law enforcement officers, we certainly will. And maybe we could come up with some kind of an agreement that would allow those officers to still be able to call on Border Patrol for backup and assistance when they need it. I hate to put them in a situation where now the officers in Detroit, when they need help and need assistance, that they can't call on Border Patrol when they might be the closest asset. So maybe I'll get some contact information from you and see what we can do to work out an agreement with Detroit on being able to call on Border Patrol with some guidance on how those interactions will work.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Secretary. My name is Don Famuina, and I represent the State of Hawaii Organization of Police Officers. First of all, I would like to extend our sincerest aloha and mahalo for all that you and your administration are doing. Given Hawaii's status as a major international gateway, how is DHS balancing the current administration's strict zero-tolerance border policies with the unique reality of Hawaii's isolated geography and its dependence on international tourism?
Yeah, you do have some unique situations for us, and I hope that we've worked well with you. We have a presence in Hawaii where you wouldn't necessarily see a large ICE presence doing immigration enforcement. More of what we are pursuing in Hawaii would be through our TSA officials, and then also we have CBP there, of course, because of all the travel back and forth and individuals. CBP is the largest law enforcement agency that we have, one of the largest in the country, and it does all traveler information internationally, and so I'm sure that you're interacting with them quite often. So we don't, as far as targeted operations, you may see a presence in Hawaii if we know specific individuals there. And we are tracking and have signed security agreements with other countries. I think since I've been Homeland Security Secretary, we've signed 27 different security agreements with other countries to share information with us. If they have a dangerous individual that they think maybe has traveled into the United States, we will share those databases with each other. They share theirs with us so that we know when some of these individuals are coming into the country. And that may be, I'd say, the vast majority of the interactions you'll see in Hawaii. If you've got some suggestions for us or experience, I'd sure love to hear it.
We'll definitely do it. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Yes, sir.
My name's Jeff Waiter.
Okay, so we've been listening to the Q&A here after she delivered her speech in Nashville, and none of the questions have been about her firing, John. We are told this has been confirmed to her, that she is aware, but I wonder if the audience realizes or knows, because it did just happen in the past few minutes, but she has not taken a single question on that. While this was happening, Mark Wayne Mullen did not return to the cameras, as he said maybe he would. He exited, and here was the scene on Capitol Hill just a short time ago.
Well, he's not on the phone anymore, that's for sure. And yeah, it's been confirmed that she was told about this before the speech, so she knows. So I assume that she committed to this speech. She's got a lot of people from law enforcement who have questions about law enforcement that they want to ask her. I mean, it could be that either nobody in the room knows, or they just want to ask her about law enforcement, and not about the fact that she's being replaced at DHS. But I mean, you got to say she's being a bit of a trooper there.
That's absolutely right.
Her commitment,
and that's what she should be doing.
All right. So let's go to Laura Reese. She is a former acting deputy chief of staff at DHS under President Trump. She joins us now by phone. So apparently the straw, Laura, that broke the camel's back was at the hearings this week on Capitol Hill. Kristi Noem said that the president knew about and signed off on this huge budget for advertising for DHS, which prominently figured the secretary. And he says that he didn't know anything about it. And if I know anything about this president, it's that when you get yourself in a hot spot or a tight spot, don't lay it off on the president.
Agreed, and that's sage advice. Obviously, the secretary, it became too much about her. And President Trump knows, as a good leader, when it's time to change up the team, and that's what he's doing here, so that a new secretary can focus on carrying out the mission. The mission of DHS is too important for distractions, particularly when we are facing concern of sleeper cells in the U.S. due to Biden's open border the past 4 years. And so it's time for a phase 2 for DHS, a new leader who focuses on the mission and to continue to carry out President Trump's agenda, both in maintaining a very secure border, but also to carry out mass deportation.
Laura, at what could be described as a critical moment for the country, for DHS, what does this transition, do you imagine, look like?
Well, I believe I had heard that she is there, or this is effective at the end of the month. And so I'm sure there'll be a kind of a mini transition for focus on that department, for potential incoming staff with a new secretary, as well as other political appointees who are already at DHS, as well as career staff there. But it is also very incumbent upon Congress now to fund DHS. It's just negligence on the part of the congressional Democrats that they haven't been funding this critical department, especially when we are facing potential sleeper cells, again, due to Biden's open borders.
Now, in terms of the confirmation process as it goes forward, the margins will be a little narrow because obviously Senator Markwayne Mullin cannot vote for himself. But we are told that he's going to pick up at least one vote on the Democratic side, that Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania has already said that he will vote to confirm Mullin.
Well, that's good news. I mean, this is a very important department and needs a secretary. So we don't need more games from Congress of obstructing the ability to carry out the Homeland Security mission, whether that is funding or confirming leadership.
Real quickly, I believe Bill Melugin took this video of Markwayne Mullin a few moments ago. We just turned it around. Okay, here we go.
No, the president, I still got to communicate, so we'll talk about it moving forward. But I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, the president and I have already talked. Obviously, the statement went out, but we need to talk to the president. We're going to get on the same page and do what things we need to do.
Do you want to make changes at DHS?
When did you find out, sir? A little bit before you guys did.
Do you want the job? Any changes?
Senator, did you expect this?
Guys, I'll talk to you all board.
Do you want the job, Senator?
The question was, when did you find out? I found out a little bit before you guys did, as these things sometimes go, Laura.
Yeah, well, and who knows exactly what that means? Did he find out an hour ago? Did he find out yesterday? Did he find out in the last week? I'm sure that the president asked him about it. Well, who knows when he asked him about it, because this president, if he does anything, he moves quickly. So maybe he just called him up and said, Mark, I want you to be DHS secretary, make it happen. And then the rest is now it's in motion.
Yes, this is obviously very fluid and very new, so it'll play out. But again, we can't be wasting too much time here because the mission is so important. We have to secure the homeland. We need to get new leadership in place. We need to get the department funded so that the president can continue to carry out his agenda, securing the border, mass deportations, etc.
Okay, Laura, thank you so much for joining our coverage.
Thanks, Laura.
We're going to head back to the White House. For more on this breaking news, Jackie Heinrich is back with us. Jackie.
Yeah, I've been trying to get information from officials on the president's thinking here and got a pretty pointed quote from someone familiar with his thinking and this decision. Quote, "It was a combination of her many unfortunate leadership failures, from Minnesota to the ad campaign to allegations of an affair." So it sounds like all of that reporting in the last several weeks that the
How could
president
you
was
dare to
uncomfortable
report
with,
on stuff like
not
that?
only how she handled public
Shame on
statements,
you.
after the ICE deportation campaign.
You have no evidence of
cost
anything
two
you
people
just
their
said.
lives in
Shame on you.
Minnesota.
Let
Also,
the lady,
this ad campaign that was,
if he
cost
in
$220
fact
million,
has told her
featured on
that she's
horseback at
to be
Mount
changing
Rushmore,
positions,
claimed under questioning,
let it happen.
in Senate hearings
And
this
stop
week.
acting
The
like a
president
bunch of
authorized that.
scrambled
Apparently he
idiots.
didn't. And then also the
Fox
rumored
News,
affair
shame on
with
you.
her advisor, Corey Lewandowski, who is also married. All of those things together apparently were the tipping point for the president on the need to move on. Again, worth noting that this is going to be a tough time to get somebody else confirmed right now in the Senate. It's an unusual time to try to shake up your cabinet, before the midterms. The sort of chatter had been that he was likely to keep most of his people in place, at least through November. But it sounds like this week's questioning and her responses in public might have been what did her in, because the strong phrasing there, her many unfortunate leadership failures, really says that the president was unhappy with her.
Senator Kennedy, I had to look up who it was, but I remember Senator Kennedy saying that he had spoken with the president after that happened on Capitol Hill, and Senator Kennedy said he wasn't happy, and that was just yesterday. So, Jackie, we'll get back to you with more breaking news in just a bit. John?
All right, let's bring in Molly Hemingway, Fox News contributor, for more on all of this. Not totally surprising, because this has been in the wind. Secrets are not things that are well kept here in Washington, D.C. But let me get you just to reflect on what Jackie Heinrich was talking about, that the reasons for taking her out of DHS and moving her over now to the Special Envoy to Shield of the Americas, which will be announced on Saturday, Mark Wayne Mullen coming in. Mark Wayne Mullen is driving away there without giving us much more, other than he found about this very soon, or just a short time ago. He said he found out just shortly before the press did. He's got to go talk to the president about it. Who knows? Maybe he's on his way to the White House right now. But the Shield of Americas is going to be announced on Saturday. But the reasons for her removal were multiple. One was the $220 million ad campaign, multiple unfortunate failures of leadership, and allegations of an affair, which she was asked about in that House hearing yesterday directly. She said it's garbage, it's tabloid garbage, but she didn't say no.
There's been quite a bit of drama surrounding Kristi Noem in recent months. It's also worth noting that a lot of people voted for President Trump because he said he was going to deport criminal aliens, shut down the border. A lot of that is getting done, and I think that a lot of people are happy with how that has gone. We saw problems with how she handled the Minneapolis situation and having to bring in Tom Homan to help with that situation, all these other issues that people are talking about. It is not the most surprising thing to see her being replaced by Senator Mark Wayne Mullen.
Okay, so just getting more reaction in. I believe we have a new reaction, Molly, from Governor Stitt of Oklahoma. Let's see here. Mark Wayne Mullen has been a fighter for Oklahoma and will fight to keep our nation secure. He says, I will be looking to appoint a strong small government conservative voice to support President Trump and protect Oklahomans' way of life. This obviously in contrast to some of the reaction we've gotten on Capitol Hill from Democrats. I think both Jeffries and Schumer said good riddance, Molly, but this is just some of the reactions so far.
Yeah, well, Senator Mark Wayne Mullen he's been serving for about 3 years. His term is up right now because he won a special election. And the governor will be appointing for this remainder of this term. You have this situation in Oklahoma where the state is really blood red, very conservative. But they've had a problem where sometimes they elect people to statewide office who are not the most conservative. You had Ray Lankford, the situation with him working on amnesty with Democrats as the other senator from Oklahoma. So I think the voters of Oklahoma will be looking for someone who is a solid conservative, someone who is not for open borders or has some of the more moderate positions that even the current governor has.
So Aisha Husney reminds us that Senator Mark Wayne Mullen is very good friends with Kristi Noem. and has supported her through thick and thin, even through difficult times in Minnesota. So he's got to have some conflicting feelings about all this.
Well, I think it's also worth noting this is not a complete and utter, get out of this entire administration kind of situation. The president does have another role for her that is being announced right now. It's a big project dealing with the cartels, which is another major issue for the Trump administration. And I also think, you remember back to the first Trump administration, it seemed like cabinet secretaries and other high-level officials were just coming in and out constantly. You were having major turnover. This really is the first major change that we have seen since Mike Waltz in last June. So this is a much less turbulent administration than the first Trump administration, but obviously not the kind of headlines you're going to want if you're Trump, particularly as you're doing all these other things like the war in Iran and people feeling concerned that maybe some of the domestic agenda is not being done at the level that they would like relative to foreign policy.
Molly, really interesting. We were taking Chrissy Noe speaking there. She's still speaking live in Nashville, Tennessee, taking questions that, to the best of our knowledge, none of those questions have still been about her ouster, nor has she commented on them. Laura, who was joining us just a few moments ago, suggested that she is going to be on probably until the end of the month. Is what she heard. It's still only March 5th, so she'll be around for this transition with Markwayne Mullin.
Yes, so the president said that this would be effective at the end of this month, and that does give time for the Senate to move on Senator Mullin's nomination. He's likely not going to have too much trouble with that, given how well liked he is in the Senate. And in fact, I think a lot of the senators.
All right, we got Markwayne Mullin live. Let's listen in.
Support me. I'm going to be laser focused on getting that done.
Senator, what was your first reaction to just the news that you were nominated for this position, just amidst everything that's happening?
Humbling, because I had to call my dad, and because it happened quick, right? I had to call my wife and call my dad both. And it's just, pretty humbling when you start thinking about it. A little kid from Westville, Oklahoma, gets to serve in the president's cabinet. That's pretty neat. So thank you guys.
How did you find out? The truth?
And I think that just like a really initial question. I mean, there's so many things that's happening within DHS. What would be your main objective or goal?
We got to, we're gonna get focused on that, and we'll get back to you on certain details.
Yeah.
When do you expect to get?
Were you surprised, Senator?
The phone call I got from the president was right before the statement went out.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so a little more clarity there on when he found out. He says he got the call from the president right before the Truth Social post went out. So that gave him about 30 seconds, I would think, Molly, to kind of process all of this. And, it's the sort of thing where President Trump obviously is very close to Mullin. He probably mentioned it to him a couple of times. But I know that when the president asks you to do something and you're a loyal member of the party, you just drop everything and say yes.
That, and I'm sure that Senator Mullin explained that he would be interested in this position if he were offered. Like you mentioned earlier, this is the one cabinet secretary who people have been really talking about a lot. How much is she going to be able, how much will happen where she's able to stay in, given some of the problems with the execution of the agenda to...
I personally think she did an excellent job, and I think the guy coming in will do an excellent job.
Personal life, it is not.
And I think all this guessing at things,
sudden for Senator
I think is ridiculous. About problems here, problems there.
Okay, so
let it go, folks. Goodness gracious.
In Nashville.
Wait until she has her comments, and then he has his comments.
Confirming,
and
John,
then make your stand.
Confirming that he
Goodness
got
gracious. The media has so quickly to jump on things that you really you're trying to run the government yourself.
It's get to work.
Get out of the position. You're reporters.
It is
no one elected
and again,
you.
I think that the base of the Republican Party really wants to see a lot of resolution to all of those problems that happened with the Biden administration, bringing in millions of illegal aliens, all of the problems that criminal illegal aliens cause. We've got the situation in Northern Virginia where you have left-wing prosecutors letting criminal illegal aliens off for charges and not working with the federal government. There are a lot of problems that remain to be fixed. And even as people are pleased that the border has been shut down and what has been done thus far, they want to see a lot more happening before the end of the Trump term.
Molly, great to have you with us. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
All right, Chad Pergram is joining us now from Capitol Hill. Chad, what's the update from there?
I want to reiterate just the speed of this because, we had started to get some rumblings about Markwayne Mullin and Kristi Noem's ouster, and I had reached out to Markwayne Mullin, and he had indicated he had not, had any conversations with the president since the hearing. So he's absolutely right. This came, with lightning speed. Now the question is, how quickly can he be confirmed? John Fetterman, the Democratic senator from Pennsylvania, indicates that he would vote yes, even though he thought a lot of fellow Democrats would vote no. I pressed Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, just a bit ago here in the House, because those two served together as both House members, and he didn't want to really weigh in on that. He said, we want to kind of, see how this plays out. But the other thing I then followed up on was, does this make a difference in the Homeland Security Department shutdown over ICE? At some point, Hakeem Jeffries had said, that we need to have a personnel change. And he said, okay, we do have a personnel change now, but that personnel change, quote, is not sufficient. He did say good riddance. And I think that it was interesting that he said, this kind of cracks the door a little bit maybe toward, fixing this now 19-day shutdown at the Department of Homeland Security, this fight over ICE. But he said he still needs to see these policy changes with ICE. Now, the other thing here, as I always say, it's about the math. We're looking at who Kevin Stitt, the governor, might appoint. Immediately, I would suggest it might be a House member. You can't do that. You could appoint a House member, but you're going to really mess with the narrow House majority, and then you would have a vacancy, and then you would have to have a vacancy there. That's a problem because then they might lose their majority. You cannot appoint somebody to the House. You can appoint to the Senate under the Constitution. You cannot appoint to the House of Representatives. Guys.
All right, Chad. We'll let that update live from Capitol Hill. Chad, thank you.
Chad, thank you. All right, well, Senator Markwayne Mullin is running into cameras literally everywhere he goes. He ran back into our Bill Malugin again. We've got about 3 minutes of video to play out for you. Let's listen in.
A little bit of surprise for us, and so the president and I, as you guys know, we're great friends, and we get along great. I look forward to working with him in his cabinet. Of course, we still got to go through this little thing called confirmation, and we're going to get started on it right away. You guys have been with me long enough, asking enough questions. You know I don't share private conversations.
Are you going to your reaction? Tell me your reaction to the White House today.
I don't think I'm going today. I think I need to talk to my wife first.
Do you expect to get support from Democrats? Tell us your reaction when you got the phone call from him.
I was excited. I mean, I
when you saw his name called.
Well, it came from the White House, so it came from the switchboard. But I was excited. The president, first of all, the president and I have a really good relationship. We talk all the time, anyways. I've got to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting the call today, but it's super excited. And I'm more excited about just ready to get started. There's a lot of work we can do to get Department of Homeland Security working, working for the American people. The Department of Homeland Security has a very broad jurisdiction. And I think there's a lot of work that we need to do, and I'm excited about it.
Senator Fetterman says he's going to vote for you. Do you expect other Democrats to vote for you?
John already texted me, and of course, you guys know John and I are friends too, and so I don't know. We're going to try to earn everybody's vote. I want people to understand, when I go into this position, yes, I'm a Republican, yes, I'm conservative. But Department of Homeland Security is to keep everybody, regardless if you support me, if you don't support me, regardless of what your thoughts are. I'm here to enforce the policies that Congress passed, and right now I'm part of it, but once I make that transition, my focus is to keep the homeland secure. That's going to be my focus, and we're super excited about this opportunity.
Any lessons learned from the Senator Schumer said that the rot is throughout the agency, and then changing the head at the top may not necessarily change the culture of the agency. What do you tell Democrats?
I'm going to have a conversation with if Mr. Schumer wants to sit down and talk to me. I'm going to sit down and talk to him. I want to try to earn their support, and I'm going to be very open and honest with them. And at the end of the day, all I can do is do my job, and so I'm not going to get in a tit for tat. But if they have real concerns, I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to see if it's practical. But nothing's going to prevent me from doing my job. I'm going to enforce the policies and the laws that Congress has passed, and we're going to protect our homeland.
Senator, you know that immigration enforcement.
I'm going to take one more.
Okay.
I need to.
Thank you, Senator. Just looking at some of the criticism that Noem has faced, is there any learning lessons that you have picked up from Noem in the ways in which you want to lead the agency?
Listen, Kristi is a friend, and I haven't had time to call Kristi yet, and our Secretary Noem, and our families are friends. She was tasked to do a very difficult job, and I think she has performed the best she can do underneath the circumstances. Is there always lessons to be learned? You know, listen, my wife and I, we have, over the years, we have been fortunate enough to purchase companies and grow our companies, and every day there's something you can do better. And so I think there's an opportunity to build off successes, and there's also opportunities to build off things that maybe didn't go quite as planned. So,
amen, and that's exactly what he should have said. And he didn't say anything negative about Christie. And you all ought to stop promoting
He said he was not
negativism.
expecting the call from the president today, but he got it. He said that John Fetterman texted him to say that he would have his support. Said that he'll enforce the policies and laws of the United States. Also said, as we had pointed out, Sandra, that Kristi Noem is a friend of his. Their families are friends. He hasn't had a chance to talk to her yet, and said that she performed as best as she could given the circumstances.
Amen.
Okay, also getting more reaction from the Hill, by the way, noting that a U.S. Capitol police officer has now been positioned outside Mullen's office. Fox is told that change in security position is as a result of this new announcement. Leader Thune has also talked to reporters off camera. The Senate should move quickly to confirm Mullen after Noem's firing, he says, noting Mullen is already well vetted and the role needs to be filled promptly. John.
Yeah, one of the biggest changes for Markwayne Mullin is that when he goes home to see his family in Oklahoma on the weekends, he's no longer going to have to, as Bernie Sanders said, stand in line at the United counter. They'll have a private plane to take him there. Let's bring in Brian Kilmeade, co-host of Fox and Friends and host of the Brian Kilmeade radio show. What do you think of the change, Brian?
Well, I didn't think he was up for the job, but man, he is ready for the job. I think he can absolutely do it. First thing he's got to do, Kristi Noem and Tom Homan famously did not get along. They had a rivalry. They weren't speaking to each other. Tom Homan came in and saved the day in Minnesota. I would just get clear. The most respected person by Donald Trump in Donald Trump's cabinet is Stephen Miller. And Stephen Miller's very hard line. And there was a belief that Kristi Noem had that she was doing what Stephen Miller wanted. Was she? I'm not in those meetings. I'm not sure. But the first thing I would get if I'm Senator Markwayne Mullin and wants to be Secretary Markwayne Mullin is clarity on what's possible with the objectives. Because politically, the president has paid the price for aggressively, in some cases ham-handedly, going after illegal immigrants. Tom Homan has always said the worst first. And in many cases, that hasn't been the case that we've seen, and it makes the president's strongest issue, immigration, just one of the many issues that he's 50-50 on or 45-55 on. So I think that Senator Markwayne Mullin understands politics too, and understands what's going to be detrimental to the president, not just for his base, but for the American people, for the independents, for maybe the non-MAGA base, because for him to be successful in the midterms, for his party to be successful in the midterms, he's got to win more than his base. And his base says a brutal crackdown. I think that Senator Markwayne Mullin has to find an equal medium between that, between trying to fix what Joe Biden screwed up by letting 9 million people here illegally, and at the same time taking a bow at the border while pursuing the worst first, letting Tom Homan stay in charge of these cities, I think would be a great move.
Brian, did you think it was going to happen? I mean,
yes.
After this hearing
Did you
yesterday,
see that hearing? You guys covered it.
Yep.
It was all.
Well, and then to have the White House confirm today that the president obviously did not like that moment, that he did not approve that ad spending, and she said he did. They're obviously very far apart.
A couple of things. It was Senator Kennedy who was questioning.
Yes.
Senator Tillis, I know he's on his way out, a little mad at the president, he was really hot under the collar. But Senator Kennedy said, I know the president, how he feels about money. He's looking down his sheet. He said, $220 million on ads featuring you. Is that going to help? Because, well, they're successful. And then who got the contract to produce that? $220 million is a lot of money. I don't even know how you do that. I guess it's buying a lot of ad time. But in the era of social media, it usually comes across cheaper. So it was a series of things. Now she is the Special Envoy Security Initiative for the Western Hemisphere. So she's still tight with the president. I think that they want to keep that relationship going, but she's out at Homeland Security for now. But that's a huge job. I mean, Secret Service is under his auspices. Mm-hmm. Also, if you think about it too, John, just to fact you in, quick question. You understand Capitol Hill. If you're a Democrat and you want to win an issue, they got body cams, they asked for body cams. They stopped roving patrols. Tom Homan says, we're not going to do roving patrols. Kristi Noem is now out. Let's say you add 2 weeks to the training on ICE training. If you're a Democrat, you could say, look at what we got on this issue. Let's open up DHS and this way we can maybe high-five our constituents and say, I did what you wanted. To continue to keep DHS closed, to me, is not even good politics.
I mean, just, following the politics of Washington, D.C., I have no idea why they're doing what they're doing, particularly when we've got this huge military conflict going on in Iran. We know that a number of Iranians have come across the border illegally over the 4 years of the Biden administration. There are clearly regime supporters who are in the United States. Look at what happened to Masih Alinejad. She had an assassination attempt against her, and it certainly wasn't any of the opposition groups who were interested in doing it. And so why would you have a fully funded and fully operational Department of Homeland Security? It makes absolutely zero sense.
Yeah, I'm stunned too. And you talk about what's going on in New York City and Brooklyn. We now have a trial going on for somebody who said he was hired by agents to assassinate Donald Trump, a Pakistani. He said if they told me if I didn't do it, they were going to kill my family. All right, who put him up to that? Iran? Who's coming across the border? 1,700 apprehended, 792 got to stay. So this is not a time to have any disarray in Homeland, and I think that Senator Schumer, if there was an ounce of maturity in him, would understand that. But I haven't seen it yet in his statements about the war, and I haven't seen it yet in his statements about DHS being shut down.
Going back to Bill Melugion's question on the Hill to Mullen earlier about Democrats, will they support his confirmation? John Fetterman was the first to come out and say absolutely yes.
I think so too. The only one he probably won is Bernie Sanders. You saw the brawl they had there last week. So I think he's going to get it. The question is, how soon can we get the hearing? Everything is so backed up. There's so many deputies, undersecretaries. This has got to transition. I hope they would put this on hyperspeed and get this done in the next 2 weeks. So Kristi Noem's got a couple of weeks to move on, and he's got a couple of weeks to move in. And then you got to get, it's not like John Thune's got a huge cushion that he could be missing that Senate vote. Then you got to get a new acting senator in there right away, but appointed by the Republican Governor Stitt.
Brian, to your point about, the Democrats don't seem to, take a win when they've got one staring them in the face, and they've already gotten so much. Why are they holding out? Hakeem Jeffries on X posting this. Kristi Noem is gone. Pam Bondi is next. Keep the pressure on these extremists. You got to wonder when it comes down to Markwayne Mullen's confirmation hearings, are the Democrats going to say, well, we're not going to confirm Markwayne Mullen until you make changes to ICE protocols? I mean, they could play politics on this.
Well, they could, or they could name an acting director that they hate even more, maybe in the interim. So that would be looked at, I think, is so irresponsible, especially when you have a situation with war in Iran right now. And I just don't know if they would even play that type of those type of political games. But I think about Hakeem Jeffries and what he said yesterday. And he came out and said, basically, the mission in Iran is going to end in failure. I've never heard anything like that.
Shame on him.
Here we are, it's a mission that's hours old.
Shame on the Democrats. Shame on them.
For America.
They aren't Americans.
And now he has an
They're
opportunity
socialist communists.
A congressional colleague, a guy who spent a lot of time in the House, and now he's in the Senate. You have a chance to put him in, and if you decide that you still want more, I think the American people would turn on him on that.
Yeah, just to roll off your point there, even if you don't agree with the military action that's been taken or the reasons why, we have got U.S. service members, men and women in harm's way, and to predict failure, and you're the minority leader in the House, and you want to be the Speaker of the House? I don't know where that comes from.
I think you have a better chance predicting the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl. We're doing very well, and it's off to an awesome start. You could say you're worried about the end game. I think that's a good question if you're a Democrat. But I think to say that you predict failure when we've wiped out all their launchers, taken out 1,100 of their security forces, I think up to 80 of their leadership, at the same time working with the second best military in the world, I'm pretty sure you're on the wrong side of things. At least as an American, I hope Hakeem Jeffries is.
Brian, good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us on the breaking news. We're going to bring in Molly Hemingway now, Fox News contributor. Molly, welcome back to you. So jump on in here as we continue to look to reaction, and we wonder what the timing will look like for Mullen to get in there.
Yeah, well, I think it is true that Democrats do view this ouster of Noem as a win for them. They also viewed getting DHS out of Minnesota as a huge win for the Democrat politicians in that state. It is true that some of what was happening there was causing some downtick in President Trump's polls. It's also true that even just yesterday there was the Harvard-Harris poll showing that a significant majority of Americans do believe in the deportation of illegal aliens. I think it was 57%. It is a very popular issue. And in the same way that the Democrats do a really good job of defending their base, doing radical things like we were just talking about here, of opposing DHS, stopping funding DHS, I think Republican base should not be taken for granted right now. They are people who are a little disheartened by some of the downturn that they've seen in the effectiveness of the domestic policy. Now they're taking on this war, which we don't know how long that will go. Should that extend beyond a month or so, you're going to start seeing some pretty significant base problems on the Republican side as well. So I would urge Republican senators who care about their electoral prospects in the midterms to think about what they can do to fight for that base as well.
I really thought it was interesting that Senator Fetterman came out so quickly. He called Senator Mullen and said, I'm with you. He put out a post to say that he is going to vote for his confirmation. That may be enough to take him over the top without even a tiebreaker from the vice president, because again, you lose a vote on the Republican side because Markwayne Mullin cannot vote for himself. But again, to the point that I was making with Brian, like it or not, we are engaged in a massive military campaign with Iran. Iran is lashing out at anyone it possibly can. A lot of people believe, a lot of very smart people believe, that there are Iranian operatives in this country, sleeper cells, who may attack the homeland. And for Democrats to continue to say we're not going to fund the Department of Homeland Security until we get the reforms we want with ICE.
Shame on them.
I mean, that would be seen as jeopardizing national security.
And that's what they're intending to do. They're communists.
We have had
They aren't even socialists, they're communists.
Iran has been able to send people over a porous border throughout the Biden administration, even more than during previous years where the border was porous. You have the threat of people who have come here illegally. You also have had years of refugee resettlement. We have another war happening. War usually comes with refugee resettlement. To not have DHS fully functional at a time like this is a true threat to the homeland. So yes, you would hope that senators would care about it. It's also a little bit of a distraction, though, for the Trump administration and keeping that domestic agenda going. So they should be very mindful that they need to keep things going and keep it at a good tick.
Well, that office is getting busy. As you can see, it looks like some pictures are being taken. We have official reaction now from Secretary Noem. She has posted this to X. Thank you, POTUS, for appointing me as the special envoy for the Shield of the Americas. Secretary Rubio and Secretary of War are incredible leaders, and I look forward to working with them closely to dismantle cartels that have poured drugs into our nation and killed our children and grandchildren. The Western Hemisphere is absolutely critical for U.S. security. In this new role, I will be able to build on the partnerships and national security expertise I forged over the last 13 months as the Secretary of Homeland Security. We have made historic accomplishments in the Department of Homeland Security to make America safe again. We delivered the most secure border in American history. 3 million illegal aliens have left the U.S.
Absolutely.
145,000 children. FEMA delivered disaster relief at 100% faster rate. We ushered in the golden age of travel, saved the American taxpayer $13 billion, and revitalized the U.S. Coast Guard. So Kristi Noem just posting that to X moments ago. Molly?
Yeah, it does. I'm sure she does want to highlight some of the successes that she had during her time there. I also find it interesting that this new role that she has is a more foreign policy facing role. The cartels really are an important part of the Trump agenda, dealing with them. And should she want a political career in the future, one that a different office she might want to run for, it might be good to have increased foreign policy performance like she will get here.
Molly, it's always great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us today for the breaking news. Just a little more on the Shield of the Americas. The president is going to be meeting with 12 leaders from Latin America at Doral this weekend, where he will formally announce it. It really is. It's a coalition to really reinforce what's being called the Don Road Doctrine, which is the modern day version of the Monroe Doctrine, which is America for the Americas and the Americas for America. So he's getting together with some like-minded leaders to talk about how we can guarantees security to a greater degree in the Western Hemisphere.
Almost cliche for me to say another busy afternoon, John. Breaking news all over. Good to have everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sandra Smith.
It just never stops, and it's drinking from a fire hose, but eventually you get used to it. I'm John Roberts. Be sure to check our social media for all things America Reports. The story with Martha starts right now as she picks up the breaking news. Martha.
Hi, guys. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum, and a lot of breaking news this hour that we are going to bring to you throughout the story. Kristi Noem now reacting to her ouster as Homeland Security Secretary. Oklahoma Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin will take over the reins at the end of this month after Noem faced some tough questions this week on Capitol Hill.
The president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes. So that's a little bit of the back and forth. I think there were a number of factors at play, as there usually are here, but that is being pointed to as one of the issues here, as Jackie Heinrich has been reporting to us this afternoon. The president posting on Truth Social today, quote, Kristi Noem, who has served us well and has numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border, exclamation point, will be moving to be special envoy for the Shield of the Americas, our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere. Senior White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich reports live from the North Lawn as she continues to gather the latest on this fast-moving story today. Hi, Jackie.
Hey, Martha. We just saw the first statement from DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. It says, thank you, President Trump, for appointing me as the special envoy for the Shield of the Americas. Secretary Rubio and Secretary of War are incredible leaders. I look forward to working with them closely to dismantle cartels that have poured drugs into our nation and killed our children and grandchildren. It goes on to say that we have made historic accomplishments in the Department of Homeland Security to make America safe again. We delivered the most secure border in American history, and goes on to sort of tout her accomplishments. I've been asking officials here about what went into the president's thinking, because sometimes we see these rumors that he's unhappy with an official in his cabinet and then stands by them. But it sounds like from people close to him, very close to him, who can speak to his thinking, the quote that I was given was, it was a combination of her many unfortunate leadership failures, from Minnesota to the ad campaign to the allegations of an affair. You'll recall in the aftermath of the ICE deportation campaign in Minnesota that took the lives of 2 protesters, there were a number of Republicans who called for her to step down, among them Tom Tillis, Lisa Murkowski. Others called for investigations and heavily criticized her, including Bill Cassidy, Pete Ricketts, Susan Collins, Ted Cruz, Ted Young, Mike Crapo, Jerry Moran. John Kennedy also told me on the Sunday briefing he was very happy that the president had elevated Tom Homan to take a lead in Minnesota, and that he had let the president know that. So there was a pressure campaign on the president, as this DHS funding has been stalled in Congress, that there has been a problem at the top, and it's not just criticism from Democrats that he was hearing and seeing in the press. This ad campaign, though, seems to have really tipped the president over the edge. The Secretary Noem was questioned about the $200 million in advertising that she authorized that featured her prominently on horseback at Mount Rushmore. It was an ad campaign about border security, and she told Congress that the president approved of that campaign, even though apparently he did not. We're going to listen to that soundbite here.
So what was your first reaction to just the news that you were nominated for this position, just amidst everything that's happening?
Humbling, because I had to call my dad, and because it happened quick, right? I had to call my wife, call my dad, both, and it's just pretty humbling when you start thinking about it. A little kid from West Oklahoma gets to serve in the president's cabinet. That's pretty neat. So thank you guys.
That wasn't the soundbite we were looking for. We were looking for the testimony that apparently really upset the president, where Noem said, yes, we went through the legal process and did it correctly when asked if the president authorized and approved that $200 million in spending. He did not. He said that he was not aware of this campaign, certainly did not authorize it. And then there were also these rumors of an affair with Corey Lewandowski, a special government employee who is serving as an advisor. He is also married, and reports floating the last several weeks that Noem had sought to appoint appoint Lewandowski as her chief of staff, but the president blocked that decision amid these rumors of an affair. So the combination of those factors that tipped the president's decision to elevate Markwayne Mullin into this position and get him confirmed.
Oh, where's their proof?
Martha.
My goodness gracious sakes alive, such outlandish charges against a person. Shame on you, Fox News. Shame on you, reporters. Get the facts straight before you open your mouths and run like a bunch of rats.
The way that it was described to you. Can you go
Shame on you.
one more time?
Minnesota, her handling of the fallout to the deaths in Minnesota of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, the statements that she made in public calling them domestic terrorists before some of the facts had come in, and her handling of that scenario, the ad campaign, the $200 million that featured her on horseback at Mount Rushmore and claiming that the president signed off on it when he had not, and also the allegations of an affair with Corey Lewandowski. This person close to the president described these three things as a combination of her many unfortunate leadership failures. So less a decision.
Oh, shame on you. No facts, just run at the mouth rumors. Goodness gracious sakes alive. I've heard enough out of your Fox News. Goodbye.
Source hour that we are going to bring to you throughout the story. Kristi Noem now reacting to her ouster as Homeland Security Secretary. Oklahoma Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin will take over the reins at the end of this month after Noem faced some tough questions this week on Capitol Hill.
The president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes.
So that's a little bit of the back and forth. I think there were a number of factors at play, as there usually are here. But that is being pointed to as one of the issues here, as Jackie Heinrich has been reporting to us this afternoon. The president posting on Truth Social today, quote, Kristi Noem, who has served us well and has numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border, exclamation point, will be moving to be special envoy for the Shield of the Americas, our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere. Senior White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich reports live from the North Lawn as she continues to gather the latest on this fast-moving story today. Hi, Jackie.
Hey, Martha. We just saw the first statement from DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. It says, thank you, President Trump, for appointing me as the special envoy for the Shield of the Americas. Secretary Rubio and Secretary of War are incredible leaders. I look forward to working with them closely to dismantle cartels that have poured drugs into our nation and killed our children and grandchildren. It goes on to say that we have made historic accomplishments in the Department of Homeland Security to make America safe again. We delivered the most secure border in American history, and goes on to sort of tout her accomplishments. I've been asking officials here about what went into the president's thinking, because sometimes we see these rumors that he's unhappy with an official in his cabinet and then stands by them. But it sounds like from people close to him, very close to him, who can speak to his thinking, the quote that I was given was, it was a combination of her many unfortunate leadership failures, from Minnesota to the ad campaign to the allegations of an affair.
Shame on you for saying that from hearsay people.
ICE deportation campaign in Minnesota that took the lives of 2 protesters. There were a number of Republicans who called for her to step down, among them Tom Tillis, Lisa Murkowski. Others called for investigations and heavily criticized her, including Bill Cassidy, Pete Ricketts, Susan Collins, Ted Cruz, Ted Young, Mike Crapo, Jerry Moran. John Kennedy also told me on the Sunday briefing he was very happy that the president had elevated Tom Homan to take a lead in Minnesota, and that he had let the president know that. So there was a pressure campaign on the president, as this DHS funding has been stalled in Congress, that there has been a problem at the top, and it's not just criticism from Democrats that he was hearing and seeing in the press. This ad campaign, though, seems to have really tipped the president over the edge. The Secretary Noem was questioned about the $200 million in advertising that she authorized that featured her prominently on horseback at Mount Rushmore. It was an ad campaign about border security, and she told Congress that the president approved of that campaign, even though apparently he did not. We're going to listen to that soundbite here.
Senator, I just wanted to clarify, what was your first reaction to just the news that you were nominated for this position, just amidst everything that's happening?
Humbling, because I had to call my dad, and because it happened quick, right? I had to call my wife, call my dad, both, and it's just pretty humbling when you start thinking about it. A little kid from Westville, Oklahoma, gets to serve in the president's cabinet. That's pretty neat. So thank you guys.
That wasn't the soundbite we were looking for. We were looking for the testimony that apparently really upset the president, where Noam said, yes, we went through the legal process and did it correctly when asked if the president authorized and approved that $200 million in spending. He did not. He said that he was not aware of this campaign, certainly did not authorize it. And then there were
he hasn't said that out publicly at all. You're getting this off of hearsay.
He was serving as an advisor. He is also married, and reports floating the last several weeks that Noam had sought to appoint Lewandowski as her chief of staff, but the president blocked that decision amid these rumors of an affair. So the combination of those factors that tipped the president's decision to elevate Markwayne Mullin into this position and get him confirmed. Martha.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Jackie, because, the person that you're citing, the source that you're citing, and just tick off for us again the three things that they told you went into this decision, because that's not really a soft pedal the way that it was described to you. Can you go through those again one more time?
Minnesota, her handling of the fallout to the deaths in Minnesota of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, the statements that she made in public calling them domestic terrorists before some of the facts had come in, and her handling of that scenario, the ad campaign, the $200 million that featured her on horseback at Mount Rushmore, and claiming that the president signed off on it when he had not.
And who said
also
this?
The allegations
Now
of an affair with Corey Lewandowski.
Shame on you,
This person
trying to
who
tarnish someone's
described these
personal.
three things as a combination
I just can't
of
believe
many
it. Fox News is shameful.
Failures.
Shameful.
So less a decision,
I expect this out of the Democrats, but out of the Fox News, it's not expected. Tell the truth. You got somebody who wants to say evil things about someone, bring them on and let them say it.
That Jackie is reporting
See
right
who they
now.
are.
So this is a much harder line in terms of what unfolded here. Jackie, thank you.
She
very
did an
much.
excellent
Jackie
job in
Hyner
the
reporting
position.
from the White House. And with that, we bring in Chad Wolf, former acting DHS Secretary, now Homeland Security and Immigration Chair at the America First Policy Institute. Chad, good to have you with us. So now a source at the White House citing many unfortunate failures at the DHS Secretary level for Kristi Noem. Your reaction?
A source. Get over it.
Say that,
Shame on
Senator
you.
Markwayne Mullin's a great pick. I think he's going to do wonders for the department. He's a patriot. He understands the threats facing the homeland, and being on the Armed Services Committee, and knows immigration and border security. So just a great pick by the president. Looking forward to seeing him come on board and do good stuff. Look, I think this issue, when we talk about border security and immigration, it's been one of the president's foremost successful policy changes from the Biden administration. He has done more for border security and making sure we get dangerous criminals out of this country than any other president. And unfortunately, over the last several months, there's just been some other issues that have been overshadowing that fact. And I think obviously the president decided that a change needed to be made. And so again, I think the department's going to be in great hands once the senator is confirmed and gets in the spot.
Yeah, I just want to run a few seconds of this commercial that Senator Kennedy brought up at this hearing the other day, and which the White House is now indicating was one of the factors, because the president did not like this report, according to Jackie Heinrich's reporting just now, that $200 million was spent on an ad campaign. Let's just watch a few seconds of this.
You cross the border illegally, we'll find you. Break our laws, we'll punish you. Harm American citizens, there will be consequences. But if you come here the right way, your American dream can be as big as these endless skies.
And that's a great ad. Nothing wrong with it at all. Absolutely. And it was needed to fight these people that were trying to get rid of ICE.
That campaign everywhere. It was a very splashy, big campaign, and it does seem that every time that Secretary Noem was promoting a policy initiative, she was pretty much front and center in the promotion of it. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, I would say 2 points. One, the idea of a messaging campaign or an ad campaign is okay to make sure that you're communicating with individuals that you want to self-deport. You want them to remove themselves from the country. So it's okay getting that message out. Obviously, I would have done it very differently. I think the president and others obviously had a concern about that. When you, as the secretary, put yourself as in the forefront of that, there's a lot of different faces. There's a lot of different professionals at the department that can also deliver that message in an effective way as well. And so, again, I think there's just a series of incidents, many of which you've covered here, that have just been overshadowed.
I think you're all just jealous of her. She's talented.
His administration has done to really change the dynamics along the border and to secure the American people. And so this is an issue that he should be leading by a large percentage on, given the success, and they just weren't seeing that. And obviously the president decided that change needed to be made.
Yeah, and no doubt the president is ready to turn the page on this, and I think the American people are mostly concerned about the defense of the homeland, which was obviously an agency that was put together after September 11th to make sure that these agencies were talking to each other, and that's a really important role here. But it was also mentioned in Jackie's reporting a moment ago that he was not happy with the Corey Lewandowski relationship, whatever the nature of that truly is. There's been a lot of rumors about it. Your reaction to them including that on the list from the White House, from a source.
Shame on you, even reporting on something that's nothing but a rumor.
Nothing specific about that. Obviously, it's been reported for some period of time, and I think it goes, as you indicated and you've reported, to leadership challenges and decision making. And I think all three of those different incidents, whether it's the ad campaign, what obviously happened in Minneapolis, and now this last issue, these are all leadership issues and decision making issues that the secretaries had to deal with, and obviously President Trump didn't like that and made that change. So I'll let him and his administration further expand on that. All I can say is we're in a heightened threat environment with obviously what's going on overseas in Iran. Now is exactly the wrong time to not have the department fully funded, and now is when you need that leadership. And so there's a number of professional folks at the department that are not going to miss a beat, even though there may be some maybe some changes at the top here. I think the American people can rest assured that you've got competent people like Rodney Scott at Customs and Border Protection and others at the department that are going to make sure that their job continues on and that the American people are safe.
Indeed. The security of the American people is the #1 concern. And, you look back at this list of these three things, and I think that they all sort of served as a distraction that maybe the president decided was not necessary in this moment for the reasons that you point out, Chad. Thank you very much. Always good to have you here, Chad.
All right, thank you.
My thanks to Chad Wolf. Senior White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich back with us from the White House with more breaking news and details as we fill out the contours of this story. Jackie, what are you learning now?
Yeah, just speaking with some folks who have a lot of knowledge of this situation, I'm told the president spoke with Kristi Noem just before that Truth Social post went out, which means that when she was on camera giving her remarks and didn't actually touch on what had just happened, she was aware of what was happening. I'm further told that Corey Lewandowski is expected to leave with her. Of course, the rumors of an affair between the two were one of the factors that I'm told compelled the president to remove her as DHS secretary. Both of them are married, and she had faced questions about her alleged affair during testimony on the Hill this week. Under oath, she did not deny it. She called the reports garbage, but she never denied sexual relations with Corey Lewandowski. And I'm told that he's expected to leave his post as a special government employee and advisor to her when she departs the Department of Homeland Security. Unclear so far. I'm trying to still get information on whether leave with her means go with her to this new role that we are still fleshing out what exactly that entails, or if that means leaving the government as a special
Let's face it, lady, you don't even really know what you're talking about. You have no evidence of anything, and it's shameful.
Unhappy, I'm told, with, quote, many of her unfortunate leadership failures, which included Minnesota, her public statements in the fallout to that deportation campaign there, also the ad campaign, the $200 million in spending, and these rumors of an affair with
Corey Lewandowski,
Yeah.
and he's expected to leave with her, Martha.
Well, that's a strong list, and unfortunate failures is strong language coming from your sources at the White House with regard to this exit of Kristi Noem, and she will have this new role as in the Shield of the Americas, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not Corey Lewandowski is going with her to that. He, of course, was President Trump's very first campaign manager back in 2016, but he has had a volatile record over these years, sort of in and then out again. So we'll stay on top of that. We know you are. And Jackie, let us know if you get some more information. We'll come right back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
So House Minority Leader Jeffries reacting to this news moments ago. Here is that.
Kristi Noem has been fired, consistent with what we have demanded on behalf of the American people. But let me also make clear.
Let me make it clear to you.
A change in personnel
You're a
is
jerk.
not sufficient. We need a change in policy. And that has to be bold, dramatic, transformational, and meaningful.
So with that, let's bring in Karl Rove, former White House Deputy Chief of Staff and Fox News contributor. Karl, good to have you with us. Your reaction to this cabinet shakeup this afternoon.
Well, a pretty dramatic change. We should not have been surprised about this ad campaign. When she was the governor of South Dakota in 2020, there was some controversy about her taking the entire tourism budget and putting behind a television campaign that featured her inviting people to come to South Dakota and then running it on Fox News and other conservative outlets.
Who are you to be considering?
And it was not a, there was a little bit of
Shame on
controversy
you.
over that, and her advisor in that situation was the same advisor apparently behind this ad campaign, Corey Lewandowski. So it's important for the president to stop the hemorrhaging. It started when he sent Tom Homan to Minneapolis to settle things and to take command of these enforcement efforts, and smart to make the decision now and get it done with.
Yeah, you know, obviously the president does not like sort of, spending that goes beyond. He has gone after Jerome Powell, and a lot of people question some of the motives in that. We know he wants him to lower interest rates as well, but he's also very unhappy with the overruns of the costs at the Treasury Department and a renovation that was going on there. And these were very lavish ad campaigns. And as you're saying that, I'm remembering the ones from South Dakota. She was like a plumber underneath the sink, talking about how she was going to fix the sink. And then there was like a dentist one. I think they were very glossy.
Yeah, that was the second ad campaign.
Okay.
The first ad campaign was aimed at tourism. The second, you're right, there was a second campaign that said, move your businesses to South Dakota. That followed, I think that was like 2021 and 2022. And incidentally, but the PAL was the Federal Reserve. But you're right, the president doesn't like people who are wasting money. Yes. And this was clearly a waste of money. But good that he sent Tom Homan in. Senator Mullen is going to be, I think, very well received by his colleagues in the Senate. Confirmation, well, it will be a little bit bumpy, should move pretty fast. But notice today, Hakeem Jeffries is upping the ante. The Democrats have got to be afraid that now that this change has been made, that they are going to start, there's going to be more attention to the fact that they're holding up the approval of the DHS budget for an ever-growing and ever-changing list of demands with regard to policies inside the agency. So when we get crimped at the airports with fewer TSA screeners, as happened to me 2 nights ago, we're going to increasingly be turning to the Democrats and saying, why are you holding up funding this important part of government?
Well, as you say that, I'm thinking that there'll be an interesting opportunity there for Markwayne Mullin during his confirmation process, because they'll be back and forth on this issue of the spending with regard to DHS and opening up that budget again to make sure that TSA is covered. And I'm sure we'll get some animated back and forth on that issue. I also wonder, just politically, Karl, if the president's feeling was, let's just deal with this right now. We're still far enough away from the midterms that let's just, fix this issue so that we don't have to deal with it down the road.
Yeah, look, absolutely. In fact, it should have been dealt with earlier. You had the problem of she insisted on approving all contracts over a very modest amount, so you had a lot of complaints from areas like western North Carolina that had suffered terrible natural disasters and not getting the assistance they needed. You had Minneapolis where she shot her mouth off pretty quickly, claiming that a man who was killed in an altercation with ICE agents was a terrorist, and it turned out that wasn't the case, and the administration got a black eye on that. So yeah, no, I'm glad it happened. It would have been better had it happened earlier.
Yeah, with regard to this senator, I mean, obviously Oklahoma is likely to be replaced with a Republican in that seat, but what does that movement tell you about as you look ahead to the midterms, Carl?
Well, first of all, the governor of Oklahoma, I think, has the authority to appoint a senator who will serve until the next election, so the Republicans won't be down one vote in the Senate. But, it's a safe choice, and he will be replaced by a Republican immediately by the governor, and probably replaced by a Republican in the election, whenever that is. Mullen was not up for election this year, so I think at least 2 years left in his term, maybe 4. But also it shows that the president is sensitive to getting these things done and out of the way before we get deep into the summer and then into the fall. If you're running a White House political operation, you want to be able to control as much of the agenda for the fall, for August, September, October, and the first few days in November as you possibly can. So get things like this done and out of the way sooner rather than later.
Yeah, indeed. The screen on the right-hand side is Senator Mark Wayne Mullen's office, and he has not come out yet, but we're waiting for another statement from him, and when we get that, we'll take you right to it. Carl Rove, thank you. Great to have you with us today.
Thanks, Martha.
So let's go now to senior White House correspondent Peter Ducey with more on this development and the shakeup in the president's cabinet. Hi, Peter.
And Martha, when I saw this news, I called an administration source to ask what was going on, and they told me that they were going to send me some spicy reaction. And what I am about to read is both spicy and not subtle. The text reads as follows. It was time. Replacing Christie was based on the culmination of her many unfortunate leadership mishaps, including the fallout in Minnesota, the $200 million ad campaign, the allegations of infidelity, the mismanagement of her staff, and her constant feuding with the heads of other agencies, including CBP and ICE. Christie's drama sadly overshadowed and distracted from the administration's extremely popular immigration agenda, which will continue full force. And so, it sounds like the only thing that was really saving her job was that the border remained pretty much closed. They are rattling off a number of very big stories that swirled up, but her job was safe. There would be a little mini scandal. She was safe. President Trump would get asked about it. He was pleased, but he was keeping tabs, and now she's gone. Martha?
Yeah, I mean, it was asked about, up until the State of the Union address, whether or not he was, going to make any changes, and he wasn't at that point ready to speak about that, I guess, but now it became clear today that there was a consensus, and, as you say, according to these inside scoop on exactly why it happened. They're not pulling any punches on this. They seem a little, very unhappy, I would say, about this list of things. And we know that the president wasn't happy about the video that he saw coming out of Minnesota. He felt it looked too aggressive. It didn't look good. He said that himself publicly. And it seems like the straw that broke the camel's back was supplied by Senator Kennedy when he asked that question at this open hearing the other day. It seems like there were a group of senators that are not going to be too disappointed about this. It may have been trying to pull the strings to make it happen, Peter.
Yes, and there's been a lot more stability with cabinet level officials in this second Trump term than there was in the first Trump term. She is the biggest name to depart the administration so far, and we were under the impression, and folks that you talked to in the White House and close to the White House, that everybody was in place now through the midterms. So President Trump had to have been really steamed about this incorrect testimony that she gave about the ad campaign to finally decide to make a move before the midterms.
Indeed. Many unfortunate failures of leadership is the phrase that is coming out of the White House this afternoon with regard to Kristi Noem, as the president clearly looks to move beyond this leadership in DHS and bring in Senator Markwayne Mullin for stability and tighter purse strings, no doubt, going forward as he runs the department and as the department deals with some very real security concerns on the ground. And we hear about potentially looming homeland issues with regard to potential terrorism as we watch the war unfold in the Middle East. Peter, thank you very much. Peter Dusby reporting. So we've got more of our rolling coverage as the reaction continues to come in. Congressman Andrew Garbarino, House Homeland Security Committee Chairman, is standing by.
Silver is
the hearing that took
Renee Good and Alex Preddy, domestic terrorists.
Congressman, what happened in Minnesota in those two incidents was an absolute tragedy.
Were they domestic terrorists, as you said to the country?
My condolences to their families, because I know that their lives will never be the same after that happened.
Is that an apology for what you said?
We, in those incidents, offer as much information as we can from officers and agents on the ground in a chaotic scene.
But you told a lie about them. You said that they were domestic terrorists. Do you regret that?
I offer my condolences to those families.
So that was the hearing that took place just yesterday. A lot has happened since yesterday, but that was where Kristi Noem was testifying about a number of things, and one of them was what happened in Minnesota, and we know that's been a sensitivity for the administration, that they counted among the list of things that they were concerned about that led to this change at that cabinet level position at the Department of Homeland. Let's bring in congressional correspondent Bill Malugin. He has covered DHS and the border extensively over his time as a reporter for Fox. He's now on the Hill. Bill, your reaction to this and how long this may have been brewing?
Martha, had been brewing for a couple months. It started in Minneapolis with all of the bad headlines that were coming out there every day. It escalated when Secretary Noem went on TV and called Alex Preddy and Renee Good domestic terrorists. It escalated further when Tom Homan was brought in to essentially be the shot caller there, and Noem and Greg Bovino were essentially sidelined. But then it hit a snowball effect this week with her testimony here on the Hill. And we just got some clarity as to what happened with Senator John Kennedy and Noem and the White House earlier this week. Senator Kennedy just gaggled with reporters here at the Hill a short time ago, and he gave us a bigger picture look at this. So he said ahead of that hearing, he had heard about this $200 million ad buy that DHS and Secretary Noem did. Of course, we've seen the ads where she's on horseback and she's featured heavily. There were some allegations that maybe there was some cronyism in those contracts. So Senator Kennedy said that he was offended by the size and scope of that contract. So he called up the White House and he said, "We've got Noem on the Hill tomorrow. I would like to press her under oath and ask her about this contract." And he said the White House essentially didn't oppose it, said go ahead. So then we see that hearing on Tuesday where he pressed her about the contract directly, and he asked her repeatedly, did President Trump personally approve of this contract to spend $200 million on this ad contract? And Kristi Noem replied under oath that yes, he did. Well, President Trump is now saying that that is not true. And just a short time ago, Senator Kennedy gave us a quote. He says President Trump called him after that hearing, after he saw Noem's testimony, and that President Trump was, quote, mad as a murder hornet, and said that he never approved that contract and didn't even know about it. I'm going to read a quote that Senator Kennedy just told us a short time ago, how he interpreted her testimony. He said, quote, I heard the secretary say that she went to the president and said, I propose to spend $250 million on TV ads in which I am the star. And the president thought that was a swell idea. That's what I heard the secretary say. Her version of the truth and the president's version of the truth are decidedly different. So Martha, it sounds like, everything started with Minnesota, with Minneapolis, with all the bad headlines, that kind of planted the seeds, and then everything really escalated this week in terms of her testimony here on the Hill. What she said under oath and what President Trump is now saying are two entirely different things. And what Senator Kennedy is saying, what President Trump is saying, is that no, he didn't know about that contract, nor would he have ever approved it or signed off on it. And that was Senator Kennedy's point. He was trying to pin her down on that with the testimony. So you combine all this together, Minnesota, the allegations of an affair with Corey Lewandowski, the testimony on the Hill, it all just kind of boiled over into a very sudden replacement of Kristi Noem with Senator Markwayne Mullin, who, again, sounded like he was pretty surprised by this. We just talked to him on the Capitol steps less than an hour ago. He said he basically found out when the media did. He was shocked to get the phone call. He said he's good friends with Senator Fetterman, who has texted him his support. Senator Fetterman already posted on X that he's going to vote to confirm him. But Martha, that's a little bit more color behind the scenes on what happened here. So it really seems like that Senate hearing on Tuesday, for lack of a better term, is the straw that broke the camel's back here.
Indeed, and that was a good line of
Well, if
questioning
all
to
of that
pursue.
was
It
true,
crossed my mind as well, Bill.
why is he
watching
appointing
Senator
her to
Kennedy
another
ask that
position
question, and
if
whether
she is
or
so
not there
evil,
was,
like these
just some
people
sort
are
of
making her out to be?
background understanding
I think it's
that
ridiculous.
question was going to be asked, and that it could be the straw that breaks the camel's
saw the
back
commercial.
in this situation.
Frankly, I thought it was quite
Secretary
beautiful.
Noem. Thank you very much.
And it
Bill
featured
Malaysian
the president
on Capitol Hill.
at the
So we got
beginning of
Remain's
it,
special report
and
anchor
her
right
at the
there,
end.
joining us by phone.
And I think
Brett,
it makes
good to have you
sense.
with us.
But I'm just one.
Your initial reaction, and then I want to play again, Brett, this back and forth between Senator Kennedy and Kristi Noem, but your initial thought.
Yeah, I think Bill and you mentioning that that's the straw that broke the camel's back is accurate, because I've talked to a couple of people already who say this was it. This was what kind of pushed the president over. There was a thought that he was not going to move and make any moves in his cabinet prior to the midterm, but this was too much. The drama surrounding Kristi Noem was accelerating, and it wasn't just the Minnesota, it wasn't just the allegations of infidelity and all of that. It was this answer that you're going to play that really upset President Trump.
Yeah, it seemed that, he'd obviously been getting a lot of input about Noem, and clearly was thinking, about it potentially pre-State of the Union. But here's this exchange, which Senator Kennedy has now reported on the Hill, that he basically cleared this question through the White House and was not given any pushback on asking it. Watch.
The president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes.
We went through the legal processes, she says there, Brett, but that was clearly a moment that did not make the president happy.
Yeah, and listen, there's more than that, but that definitely was the final thing. There were these battles with the heads of the Customs and Border Patrol and ICE. There was internal staff problems at DHS, some real behind-the-scenes kind of commentary that the leadership was really causing problems internally, and it was playing itself out real time in Minnesota and other places where you saw the battle of leadership, which is when Tom Homan went in to Minnesota. And the question was, when's this going to happen in coming months? And now it's pushed to a head. So I think that Markwayne Mullins is somebody who is going to get the votes. He's very confident. Has the president's ear. And there will be people that say, does he have a lot of experience in this realm? And his time on Capitol Hill, I think he's been in committees where he's dealt with a lot of Homeland Security information. That said, it's a big job at this moment, and we'll see how that hearing goes and exactly how Oklahoma gets filled and who steps into that race and appointment by the governor in Oklahoma.
Yeah. When you look back, Brett, at what happened in Minnesota and what a win immigration and the border were for President Trump. You know, clearly so much was accomplished in terms of shutting down the border. And then the attention moved to clearing out people here, the worst of the worst. First, criminal immigrants who had made it into the country during the course of the Biden administration. And all of that was clearly a very important priority for the president, and his team was very much behind it, Stephen Miller very much behind it. But then these videos started coming out, and we saw some deterioration in the numbers, in polling numbers, in all different polls, pointing to the direction that people were uncomfortable with some of what they were seeing in these videos. And the president made it clear that he did not like that. So that's probably the most substantial underpinning of why change needed to be made, and these other things were clearly, you know, icing on the cake that did not make him happy.
Well, that's right. And I think if you look at immigration as a whole, if you ask people about the border, he gets very high marks because of stopping the flow of illegal immigrants through the border. And he did praise Secretary Noem in this statement that kind of moves her on to this shield of the Americas that he's setting up this weekend. And that's the position that she's going to head towards and get out of Department of Homeland Security. But those images, those videos, it was turning the tide as far as public opinion, and he was upside down on some of those numbers on handling of it. And I think they're going to try to right that ship in a number of different ways. As you see, he probably has 3-4 months to kind of figure that out before it's baked in the cake. And before the midterm elections in November.
Yeah, it was also interesting that in this statement, the sources that were close to the White House that put together this list of these failures, leadership failures that led to this, did mention these rumors of an affair. Both Corey Lewandowski and Kristi Noem are married to other people. There's a story that came out that was, you know, not a good look at all about planes being turned around to pick up a blanket and things like that. Corey Lewandowski has a long history, obviously, with President Trump being in and being out, Brett.
Yeah, and he is leaving the department with Secretary Noem, and he is leaving that position. These allegations were rampant around Washington, and it was kind of well known in all kinds of circles, and the president knew about it as well, and was not pleased about that. But that's, again, one of a list of things, and I think that final answer of Senator Kennedy's question was the end.
Yeah, indeed. Brett, thank you very much. We'll see you tonight on a special report. So we are watching this situation. We're waiting for Senator Mark Wayne Mullen to see whether or not he's going to make a statement. We're outside his office with a camera, as are other news outlets at the moment, so we'll let you know when we get something there from our reporters who are working on Capitol Hill. More right after this.
Now that I've reevaluated my benefits and savings with Voya, I'm feeling great. How's your retirement plan going?
Oh, I've been ignoring it and then hoping for the best. Come on, good retirement.
Don't just hope for a strong future, plan for one with Voya. Plan, invest, protect.
Thanks for coming in to talk about Doug Jr.
Of course. Third grade is when I learned Liberty Mutual could save you hundreds by customizing your car insurance.
Why don't you come sit with us?
Oh, a little snug. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty. This little light of mine has been dark for quite some time. Then I let in the light to help see more of the light inside of me.
I needed more from my antidepressant, so my doctor added Caplyta, proven to provide greater relief from depression symptoms than an antidepressant alone. Building on my progress without starting over. Weight gain and reported sexual side effects were not common.
Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis. Call your doctor about new or sudden mood changes, behaviors, or suicidal thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks. Report fever, confusion, stiff muscles, which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High cholesterol and weight gain may occur, as can high blood sugar, which may be fatal. Common side effects are sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, dry mouth, feeling tired, and diarrhea. These aren't all the side effects.
Ask your doctor about Caplyta.
Help see more of the light inside of me.
Would you like to hear it start?
I'd like to tell you about Y-Refi. Did you know that as an accredited investor, when you invest in Y-Refi, your interest rate is fixed? And did you know you can invest from 1 to 5 years, and you can spread your investment over those terms to best suit your needs? And you have the freedom to take your monthly interest as income or reinvest it in whatever you choose. When you invest in Y-Refi, your interest is calculated daily, and you're paid monthly. Would you like some more information? Just call 877-80-INVEST or log on to investyrefi.com. That's investyrefi.com. For complete details, make sure to review the private placement memorandum and scan this QR code to view the disclosures at your leisure. Y-Refi, investing in America's future. And this is the Larry Elder Show.
I wish I could just watch live sports at home for a great price.
Choose and customize your channel length, or pause and watch for free. Sling lets you do that. Base package required.
My audio hearing aids helped me get my life back. I couldn't hear my wife, I couldn't hear my friends. It's frustrating. I grew up going to car races, hearing the roar of the engine, going fast. I lived a loud life, and I don't want my hearing loss to slow me down. I want to hear my wife, I want to hear my granddaughter again, I want to hear that engine roar. I still want to go fast. My audience helped me get that back. They're affordable, you can get them over the counter, I don't need a prescription, and they're easy to set up. I'm proud of my life, and I'm proud of my audience.
Ugstapated. The need for fast relief when your backed up gut has you feeling bleh. Mirafast. Works naturally with your body in as little as 30 minutes. Mirafast. Acts faster, works gently.
The war in the Mideast is accelerating.
The U.S. forces are going to increase their strikes against the Iranian regime.
The goal of what is left of Iran's regime is to survive the U.S. strikes.
Thanks as well to Mark Wayne Mullen, Senator. Mark Wayne, thank you. Stand up, Mark Wayne. Don't fight him. He's a serious fighter in a lot of ways, and he's a great guy, too. Thank you, Mark Wayne.
So President Trump has praised Mark Wayne Mullen many times. They have a very good relationship, the senator from Oklahoma and the president of the United States, and he was referring there to him as a fighter. Politically, of course, he's also a well-known former MMA fighter and champion, and trains, all of his kids, and is a coach in martial arts as well, which obviously the president is referring to there together. So he has been chosen to be the nominee to replace Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem after what a source is calling many unfortunate leadership moves by Noem and drama that overshadowed the president's agenda and promotion of herself through these ad campaigns that were very expensive, $220 million for these DHS ad campaigns. And with that, we bring in House Homeland Security Committee Chairman Andrew Garbarino. Chairman Garbarino, thank you very much for being here. Your reaction to this news this afternoon?
Well, it took me by surprise, as I think it took a lot of people. But I'm excited to have Senator Mullen as the new secretary. I have a great working relationship with him. I served in the House with him. We worked together to get the One Big Beautiful Bill passed. I think he's got a great relationship with a lot of people here on the Hill. I know he's got a great relationship with the president. I think he's going to do a great job as Secretary of Homeland Security.
In terms of the politics of this and the choice to remove Noem from this position now, as the chair of the Homeland Security Committee in the House, do you think this was a good political move to be made at the White House?
Well, look, the president gets to choose who the secretaries are. I had a good working relationship with Secretary Noem. She did a great job closing the border. I know there were concerns over some things that were happening at the department. I know there were questions about Corey Lewandowski and what his role was at the department. There were questions with what happened with Minnesota. But I did have a very good working relationship with her. We got a lot done together. But now, moving forward, I think Mark Wayne is going to do a great job He's going to be a great secretary. But the number one priority right now is to get the department back open. With this shutdown, we're still being put in a lot of risk here in the country because of this shutdown that the Democrats have caused. So before he's secretary, we need to make sure everything gets funded and opened back up, because he's going to have a very busy schedule with FIFA, with America 250, a lot of things coming up in the near future. So first things first, we got to get the government back open.
Yeah, that is for sure. Can you give us a sketch of what that looks like? Where does it all stand? When are we going to get some movement on refunding the Department of Homeland Security?
Well, we're voting on that today in the House. We're going to vote again. I think we're being rather generous to the Democrats in the House, letting them right their wrong of when they voted to shut it down a couple weeks ago, giving them another shot to vote to fund the government. With what's going on in Iran right now, with the heightened threat here, with, again, the preparations for FIFA, which is less than 100 days away, with FEMA funds being at a record low, the DRF being at a record low, they are playing politics.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Let me just ask you before we run out of time here. We just heard from Hakeem Jeffries, who basically said this is not enough. This is not enough change. We want serious structural change at the Department of Homeland Security. Can you tell people at home, exactly what is it going to take? What exactly does he want? We know that there's body cams. We know there's training things that have been agreed upon. What is he still, what's the sticking point? Specifically,
I don't know what they want. Honestly, they keep moving the goalposts. We've agreed to the body cameras. We've agreed to the OIG funding. We've agreed to training. We're doing all the right things. Tom Homan's doing a great job. They are putting American lives at risk by not funding the government right now, and they're playing games. And they're going to blame us if something goes wrong. This will be their fault. If American lives are lost because of an attack, because they shut down the department, the blood will be on their hands. They are doing the wrong thing here. They are playing politics.
Amen.
He's a New Yorker. He's a
They
New
are
Yorker.
doing the wrong thing.
And the 25th anniversary, 9/11 coming
Shame
up,
on
he
him.
should not be playing games with New York, with American lives. And that's all he's doing. Him and Chuck Schumer are playing games right now.
That's right.
And it's pissing me off because I think we are on the brink of having an attack here, and they just continue with the shutdown and everything. We are giving them what they're asking for, and they just keep moving the goalposts.
Okay, Chairman Garbarino, thank you very much for being with us this afternoon, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're still keeping an eye on these events that are unfolding on Capitol Hill, and we're also watching MacDill Air Force Base right now in Tampa. We are about to hear from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and we're getting some breaking news from the Middle East and the war that is unfolding in Iran. We will tell you what's going on right after this break. Stay with us. Live from Dubai, as the UAE says that it is intercepting missiles and drones incoming from Iran. Hi, Lucas.
Well, good afternoon, Martha. It's nearly 1 a.m. here in Dubai, where Iranian drone and missile attacks continue. The United Arab Emirates has received more of Iran's missiles and drones. It's been targeted more than any other country in the Middle East, including Israel. And we've received a number of mobile alerts on our phones warning of incoming Iranian ballistic missile and drone attacks. One of them was launched at Abu Dhabi Airport about an hour from here where I'm standing, and there are reports of explosions. Now, according to the Ministry of Defense, on Thursday, 7 ballistic missiles and 131 drones were fired here at the UAE. One of the missiles made it through. In 6 of the drones, there are no reports of casualties. And this is an image of what those alerts look like on our phones. About 200 ballistic missiles have been launched from Iran at this country since the beginning of the war. The vast majority shot out of the sky by the Emirati missile defense systems. Over 1,000 drones have been launched here since Saturday. Over 70 made it through. Qatar's air defense systems nearby have also been busy. While the Pentagon says ballistic missiles launches are down 86% and drone attacks down 73% from Iran, they're still coming here, as those numbers indicated, Martha. And U.S. and Israeli jets continue hunting down those Iranian launchers. And Iranian attacks on shipping also continue. Earlier today, a tanker in the Persian Gulf was hit by an Iranian unmanned drone ship, putting a big hole in the hull. Authorities say ballast or seawater is discharging over the side, not oil, minimizing environmental damage, but oil oil does seep in the bilge, as you know. Many tourists and residents are fleeing Dubai, and some are paying a lot of money to do it. The airport here has been closed since the start of the war, but limited flights have resumed, some 40 in all earlier today, or at least yesterday. And some of the people we've talked to, Martha, are scared. Some want to leave. Some are carrying on as normal. What's very interesting, of course, tourism, a big industry here in Dubai. Some of the hotels are at 1% occupancy, Martha.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of people that are anxious to get out of the zone at the moment, and those alerts about what's going on at the airports point to a lot of concern that is legitimate for sure. Lucas, thank you very much. Great to have you with us. So that's the story for this Thursday, March 5th. The story goes on. We'll be back here tomorrow to take you through all the developments in the war and the shakeup at the White House. Here's where you can follow me on social media as we continue to post these breaking news updates throughout. We'll see you here tomorrow.
You love your land, and you have plans for it.
The mission is laser focused.
Carrying America.
All right, 10 a.m.
Say anything, Harold?
Did you change it again?
Yeah, that was on live. It's been on for a half hour. I'm putting it on at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Where I taped it.
Well, let me shut this off here. Okay, hit the road.
Ready?
No.
Thank you.
Emily would have said about 16,000 things in 15 seconds. 100%. 100%.
You guys.
All for us tonight. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks, Jesse. And Dana's update on Punch the Monkey is really appreciated. Thanks.
Thank you, Harold.
Good evening. I'm Brad Baer. Breaking tonight. We are covering two major stories. President Trump says the U.S. and Israel are, quote, totally demolishing the enemy far ahead of schedule. Iran is intensifying its attacks on its Gulf neighbors amid punishing strikes from the U.S. and Israel. We have worldwide coverage from our team of reporters in the Middle East and Europe in a moment, and a fair and balanced debate from Capitol Hill on the war. But first, President Trump has fired his Homeland Security Secretary. An administration source cites a laundry list of complaints about Secretary Kristi Noem, including what are called many unfortunate failures of leadership. The president has nominated Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin to replace Noem. Senior White House correspondent Peter Ducey starts us off tonight live from the North Lawn. Good evening, Peter.
Good evening, Brett. Markwayne Mullin, the 48-year-old MMA fighter turned senator, is next up for Senate confirmation. Kristi Noem is next up to be the special envoy for the Shield of Americas, and we will learn what that job is and what it entails at an event on Saturday. But sources close to the administration are telling us there are four main reasons she had to go.
We're destroying more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour.
And with an eye on new threats from Iran and its terror proxies, an administration official tells Fox it was time. Replacing Kristi was based on the culmination of her many unfortunate leadership mishaps, including the fallout in Minnesota, the $200 million ad campaign, the allegations of infidelity, the mismanagement of her staff, and her constant feuding with the heads of other agencies, including CBP and ICE. The DHS ad campaign that upset the White House looked like this.
But if you come here the right way, your American dream can be as big as these endless skies.
Noem's defense of that ad this week sealed her fate.
Correct. Work with OMB. Yes.
He did.
Yes.
The president says, not true, telling Reuters, I never knew anything about it. As news of Noem's dismissal broke, she addressed a conference in Nashville and acted like nothing was wrong.
We'll continue to work together to make sure that we have the opportunity to do that.
In D.C., her replacement was detailing today's call from President Trump.
A complete surprise, but it came in a little bit of surprise for us.
Some Democratic reaction was predictable.
The president has fired Kristi Noem. Good riddance.
Some was not. Senator John Fetterman writes, I'm not sure how many fellow Democrats will vote to support our colleague Senator Mullin as the next DHS secretary, but I am. And Sean O'Brien, the Teamsters General President, writes, if anyone is willing to stand their butt up to protect America, it's Markwayne Mullin. They've come a long way in the 3 years since a near fist fight.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand up, Bono.
Oh, hold it. Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution or Republican?
No, sit down.
And pulling Mark Wayne Mullet from the Senate could be complicated for Republicans who don't have much of a margin there, because his replacement will be named by Kevin Stitt, a Republican governor who President Trump has in recent weeks called a rhino and a wise guy. But Governor Stitt insists Mullen will be replaced by a strong, small government conservative. Brett.
Peter Ducey, live in the North Lawn. Peter, thank you. President Trump says he must personally be involved in picking Iran's new leader, and that Iranian officials are asking him how they can make a deal to end the conflict with the U.S. and Israel. The president is calling on Iranian military and police to lay down their arms and on the people of Iran to take back their country. We have Fox Global team coverage with reporters across the Middle East and Europe covering all angles of Operation Epic Fury. We begin, though, with correspondent Nate Foy in Tel Aviv tonight with the latest. Good evening, Nate.
Hey, Brett, good evening. Iran is showing no signs of surrender, firing on Tel Aviv 8 different times today as the country's foreign minister set up the possibility of a U.S. ground offensive into Iran, that it would be a, quote, disaster for the United States. This as the American-Israeli aerial campaign continues, as President Trump said today that he'll need to be involved in selecting Iran's next leader. The U.S. is now dropping gravity bombs from military aircraft like the B-52. This will help preserve missile stockpiles, while an Israeli F-35 pilot took down an Iranian fighter jet mid-air in the skies over Tehran. Israel says this is the first pilot-to-pilot takedown of this campaign. Meanwhile, Bahrain says that an Iranian missile hit its state-run oil refinery today, and this is after Iran already targeted Saudi Arabia's state-run oil company. So Iran has now targeted military or civilian infrastructure in 11 countries across the region, including the United Arab Emirates, where we find our colleague Lucas Tomlinson in Dubai tonight. Hey, Lucas.
Thanks, Nate. Iran has shot more missiles and drones at the UAE than any other country, including Israel. Now, earlier today, we received multiple alerts on our cell phones warning about incoming ballistic missiles heading to here in Dubai and the region. And there are reports that missiles fired at Abu Dhabi airport about an hour away. There were reports of explosions near the airport. And according to the Ministry of Defense, overnight, 7 ballistic missiles and 131 drones were fired at the UAE. 1 missile and 6 drones made it through. There are no reports of casualties. Now, since the beginning of this conflict, Iran has launched about 200 ballistic missiles and more than 1,000 drones targeting this country. Over 90% shot out of the sky by the Emirati missile defense systems. Many are fleeing the Gulf region. Limited flights have resumed at the airport here. Now, west of here in Qatar, reports of explosions at the largest base in the Middle East, the same country President Trump visited last spring. And in the Persian Gulf, there are reports that an unmanned Iranian drone boat put a hole in a tanker in the Persian Gulf. We're still waiting for more updates about that ship. I'm now going to send it to my colleague Steve Harrigan in Armenia.
Lucas, Azerbaijani officials say they are going to retaliate after an Iranian drone attack. Those Iranian drones hit inside Azerbaijan. They landed in an airfield, an international air base. They caused some structural damage, and they wounded 2 civilians as well. Tensions remain high between Azerbaijan and Iran, in part because Azerbaijan is a close trading partner with Israel. They also supply almost 30% of Israel's oil. There was an immediate effect after this Iranian drone attack. A number of airplanes shifted their flights to the north. These northern flight plans moving along Russia's border, trying to get out of Azerbaijani territory in case there could be more firing. But already here in the Caucasus, there's a sense that this war has spilled over into new territory. Now it's my colleague Greg Palkot in Istanbul with more cross-border violence.
Thanks, Steve. NATO has now increased its alliance-wide ballistic missile defense posture as member state Turkey is still reeling from its brush with the offensive activity in this region. Turkish President Erdogan is warning Iran after the country apparently fired yesterday a ballistic missile that flew over Iraq and Syria and was intercepted as it entered Turkey's airspace, knocked down by a U.S. ship in the eastern Mediterranean, possibly headed towards the huge U.S. base at Incirlik in southeastern Turkey. Iran today, in fact, denied it had shot the missile. That didn't stop Erdogan from calling it a very sensitive act, warning that it should never happen again, and amidst it all, trying to explain the friendship Turkey still shares for neighbor Iran. As for NATO's response, Director General Rutte, while expressing concern about the attack, does not think it qualified as a triggering of the NATO Article 5 clause. That's the rule that an attack on one NATO member is an attack on all and should be followed up with a response. Folks here have enough problems right now. Still, U.S. allies are on high alert, including in the UK, where Brian Yennis is reporting.
That's right, Greg. The UK is now sending 4 additional Typhoon fighter jets to Qatar to better defend British nationals and allies in the region. The HMS warship called the Dragon is also deploying to the Mediterranean, and Wildcat helicopters with anti-drone capabilities arrive in Cyprus Friday. Still, Prime Minister Keir Starmer insists the UK will not get involved in this war offensively, quote, no matter the pressure to do otherwise.
Now that decision was deliberate. It was in the national interest. And I stand by it.
President Trump has criticized Starmer, saying he's no Winston Churchill and he's been very uncooperative. Starmer says the US-UK are sharing intelligence and bases. As Iran fires lethal, low-cost drones, President Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukraine has accepted a request by the U.S. and Arab nations to provide anti-drone support. The Ukrainians have shot down tens of thousands of Iranian drones fired by Russia using low-cost interceptors like the Sting, a 3D-printed quadcopter, and the Octopus, which is an AI-powered counter-drone developed with the British here in the UK. Brett?
Thank you, Brian. Thank you always, Greg, Steve, Lucas, and Nate as well. Back in Washington, Pentagon leaders provided an update on Operation Epic Fury. War Secretary Pete Hegseth says the timeline for the U.S. to achieve its objectives is WUOT, ours and ours alone to control. Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin has details.
U.S. Navy F-18 Super Hornets taking off from the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Arabian Gulf, helping to take out mobile missile launchers, Iranian naval targets, and enemy air defenses.
In just the last hour, U.S. B-2 bombers dropped dozens of 2,000-pound penetrator bombs, targeting deeply buried ballistic missile launchers. Notably, we've also struck Iran's equivalent of Space Command, which degrades their ability to threaten Americans.
Now that CENTCOM has the ability to base its B-52s in British Diego Garcia and Fairford, England, the Stratofortress, originally designed to carry nuclear weapons in the 1950s and fly at 50,000 feet, can begin targeting inside Iran. Responding to that U.S. submarine sinking an Iranian frigate with 130 sailors on board off the coast of Sri Lanka, Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi issuing a new threat. The U.S. has perpetrated an atrocity at sea. Mark my words, the U.S. will come to bitterly regret the precedent it has set. Last night, the Pentagon released the names of the 5th and 6th American soldiers killed in Kuwait. Major Jeffrey O'Brien, a resident of Waukee, Iowa, and Chief Warrant Officer 3, Robert M. Marzan, killed in the March 1st drone attack in Port Shuaibah, Kuwait.
There's no shortage of American will here. We remember and honor our fallen, those 6 that we will soon welcome at Dover, who gave everything for their country in this mission.
Admiral Cooper said the U.S. military has sunk now 30 Iranian Navy ships, including a prize drone carrier, which is currently on fire. Secretary Hegseth said the U.S. is flowing more combat power, forces, and munitions into the region. The amount of firepower over Iran is about to surge dramatically. The biggest problem CENTCOM is facing right now is Iranian propaganda. Twice today, they had to put out messages on X shooting down false reports that American pilots had been shot down. Brett?
Jennifer, thank you. The first group of Americans evacuated from the Middle East back in the U.S. tonight. This comes as the effort to get additional citizens home from the region intensifies. Senior foreign policy correspondent Jillian Turner is at the State Department again tonight.
The first chartered evacuation flight sponsored by the State Department has landed safely on U.S. soil. The flight departed the Middle East yesterday. American evacuees aboard and arrived a few miles outside the nation's capital Thursday afternoon. State Department officials are not sharing details of the flight to protect any future evacuation operations that are now being planned.
We're identifying specific individuals with specific options in order to depart the region.
Elsewhere across the U.S., commercial flights carrying Americans from the region continue to arrive intermittently.
We just got a number, and by some grace, they rebooked us for JFK, and that flight didn't get canceled. The flights after us got canceled because they started bombing the UAE again.
About 20,000 Americans stuck in the Middle East have now returned safely home to the U.S., despite the closure of most commercial airspace across the Mideast. State Department officials say they are in touch with about 10,000 Americans still in the region, hoping to get out. Today, yet another embassy abroad in Kuwait City closed for business amid regional unrest. This after American diplomatic outposts in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Israel have become targets for Iranian militias. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is overseeing a 24/7 interagency task force to try and connect with as many Americans as possible and get them out of harm's way. No new information on forthcoming evacuation flights tonight, though we suspect more are ongoing now. And this just in, Brett, official announcement from the Trump administration that they are restarting diplomatic relations officially with Venezuela, with the interim government there. That means a consulate, an embassy, and then eventually an ambassador. Brett?
Big changes. Jillian Turner at the State Department. Jillian, thanks. Just a short while ago, the House defeated a resolution to limit President Trump's war powers against Iran. This matches the Senate rejection of a similar effort yesterday. Chief Congressional Correspondent Chad Pergram is on Capitol Hill with the latest tonight. Good evening, Chad.
Brett, good evening. The vote blocking the plan to end the conflict failed 219 to 212.
It was a terrible vote that Democrats brought to begin with. No Democrats were willing to even nuance that Iran was any kind of threat to America.
Warren Davidson and Thomas Massey were the only GOP members who voted to withdraw forces from combat. 4 Democrats voted to continue the operation.
Shameful.
That came
That's our
after
congressman.
53 Democrats voted against a resolution calling Iran a state sponsor of terrorism. The Department of Homeland Security is on day 19 of a shutdown, but Democrats are not relenting, despite the removal of Kristi Noem. Does that change the ICE conversation?
Kristi Noem has been fired, consistent with what we have demanded on behalf of the American people.
Shame on you.
Personnel
You have
is
got a
not
right to
sufficient.
demand
we need
anything.
A change in policy.
Now, the House voted today to fund DHS, but Senate Democrats again sidelined a funding bill. Republicans also rejected a Democratic plan to fund everything at DHS except ICE. Brett?
Chad Pergram live on the Hill. Chad, thank you. Coming up, we talk with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle about the argument over Operation Epic Fury. Plus, officers hailed as heroes as we get a first look at dramatic police body camera video of last weekend's mass shooting in Austin, Texas.
Dr. McCullough, during the pandemic...
Live look at Capitol Hill there. House Republican leadership is asking embattled Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez to abandon his re-election effort. Gonzalez is facing an ethics investigation over an affair with a former aide who subsequently took her own life. Gonzalez has acknowledged the affair for the first time, calling it a lapse in judgment. The congressman is facing a runoff after failing to win a majority against gun manufacturer Brandon Herrera in this week's primary election. Tonight we're getting our first dramatic look at police body camera video of Sunday morning's deadly mass shooting in Austin, Texas. That incident is being investigated as a possible act of terrorism. Correspondent Brooke Taylor shows us tonight from Dallas. A warning here, this video is graphic.
Disturbing body camera footage shows Austin police officers racing to stop the mass shooter who killed 3 and injured over a dozen. The suspect, armed with an AR-15, gets out of his SUV and shoots a pedestrian in the parking lot. He then walks toward a popular bar. The crowd ducks and runs to safety.
There's multiple people shot. We need help right now.
As 911 calls pour in, officers respond within 57 seconds.
Where is it? Over there, over there, over there. Top fire, the suspect is down.
Police say the suspect also fired into the crowd outside the bar from inside his SUV, using a semi-automatic handgun. Officials say that video is too disturbing to release. The victims identified as 19-year-old Ryder Harrington, 21-year-old Savita Shawn, and 30-year-old Jorge Peterson.
I want to again recognize the bravery of our officers. You saw that firsthand as they ran into danger to stop this. It is quite clear that they saved multiple lives.
Police killed the shooter, who is identified as 53-year-old JjjJesus, a naturalized U.S. citizen from Senegal living near Austin. Officials say police responded to a mental welfare check on him in New York in 2022. He was wearing a property of a law sweatshirt with an Iranian flag t-shirt underneath, and authorities found pictures of Iranian regime leaders in his home. The FBI is still investigating whether this was an act of terrorism.
The potential for terrorism, that had to be investigated, and it is.
And the Travis County District Attorney Jose Garza here, he said his officers have formally ended its review and are not seeking any charges against the officers, who he calls heroes. But all of this comes amid massive backlash over his policy that requires all officer-involved shooting cases to go before a grand jury, no matter what, Brett.
Brooke Taylor, live in Dallas. Brooke, thanks. Up next, a fair and balanced discussion of Operation Epic Fury. We'll talk to lawmakers both for and against the effort. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 13 in Salt Lake City is a suspect is taken into custody after 3 women were found dead at multiple scenes across Wayne County. Police say 22-year-old Ivan Miller stole a vehicle from one of the victims. He was apprehended without incident. Authorities say he had no previous relationships with those victims. Fox 11 in Los Angeles says pop icon Britney Spears is arrested for allegedly driving under the influence in Ventura County. She's booked around 3 a.m., released about 3 hours later. Spears has since deactivated her Instagram profile. Fox 4 in Dallas says North Texas residents assessed damage after a powerful line of severe storms Wednesday night. The system left behind collapsed roofs, flooded highways, record-breaking rainfall. Some areas recorded up to 8 inches of rain. And this is a live look at St. Louis. One of the big stories there tonight from Fox 2. Six Flags Entertainment Corporation says it has entered a definitive agreement to sell 7 of its parks, including Six Flags St. Louis in Eureka. The park will open for its 55th season on April 26th. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.
My dad is
I think it's regrettable that it doesn't look like the president's going to ask for authorization for this war, but we could decide to stop funding it.
Congress is going to be ready to stand by and play the role that we have to play in this to make sure that our military stays strong.
Well, tonight we're going to talk with members of Congress who have opposing views on Operation Epic Fury. First up, Arizona Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego. He's a Marine veteran who served in Iraq. Senator, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You know, we have the latest Fox poll asked the question, Iran poses a real national security threat to the U.S. 61% said yes. There is support for this, but obviously there is opposition. Why are you opposed to this move?
Well, I think that the poll is not wrong. You know, I think Iran is a national security threat, but is it the most important national security threat right now? Does it mean that we have to go to war without, at this point, any actual reason? The president's not giving us a solid reason, and we don't know the actual exit plan. So, you know, my concern about all of this is that, again, you know, we don't know how we're going to get out of this. And as someone actually had to live through a very bad experience with some bad decisions when I got sent to Iraq and saw many of my friends die, I don't want another generation of veterans to do that. And so this is why this is my position that we're taking right now.
Secretary Hegseth came out, was asked about the mission behind here and the objectives to
The mission is laser focused. Obliterate Iran's missiles and drones and facilities that produce them, annihilate its navy and critical security infrastructure, and sever their pathway to nuclear weapons. Iran will never possess a nuclear bomb, not on our watch.
The president claims that the Iranians were a few weeks away from possibly moving towards a nuclear. Also believed that they were in the process of attacking, possibly launching an attack before we attacked. You don't buy it.
Well, we've just heard 4 different reasons, so it's not that I don't buy it. They're not selling it well. Number 2, because of what the nature of what they're doing, we're dropping bombs. We've already had 6 men and women die. We have our allies that are being attacked. We have our ally civilians being attacked, whether in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, or Israel, that are also now in danger. This is why the president should come and ask for authorization to go. There was no preeminent threat that we heard about, nor has any intelligence agency said that they were weeks away from acquiring and being able to field a nuclear weapon.
If this ended in weeks, if it achieved its objective, if the Iranian regime actually is toppled and it's a safer place, will you give the Trump administration credit?
Well, certainly you always want to root for the best outcome for America, whether it's Trump, whether it was Biden, whoever was in charge, and you never want to see that. And look, I think there's this mischaracterization of why we're against this. Like, I am, Team America. I want to see the best outcome for America. I want to keep America safe. But that also includes making sure that we're very smart about the wars that we go to. Sometimes we have to go to war to protect our country. I'm not a peacenik, but sometimes it's smarter for us to work our way through, figure out what is the best way to keep us over. Is it really in our national interest? Because time and time again, we have found ourselves in these adventurous wars that cost us time, money, and focus. Because right now, what does America want? They want us to focus on cost of living. They don't want to put us in another endless war.
Senator Gallego, we appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Now with the other side of the discussion, Texas Republican Congressman August Pfluger. He's a former Air Force fighter pilot. Congressman, thanks for being here. Senator Gallego, on the Democratic side, just finished saying that this could be a never-ending war that doesn't have objectives, and there's concern, and that's why he's opposing it.
Well, Brett, thanks for having me. And obviously, I disagree with that. The president's been very clear. He's set very clear military objectives. He's used speed and an aggressive nature to take out what is a cancer, the largest state sponsor of terrorism, sowing chaos in the region. And it makes me proud to be an American that we finally have a president who's actually standing up for our security and doing something about this 47-year-old terror regime.
I showed a poll to Senator Gallego. I'll show a different one to you. This is the president's handling of Iran. Does it make us, the U.S., safer, less safe, or no difference? Less safe at 51%. You have to acknowledge, Congressman, there is concern out there about what this means long term and how long this operation may go.
Well, I understand the concern. I mean, we've been shaped by conflicts of the past. We've also been shaped by 4 years of appeasement with Joe Biden and 8 years of appeasement from Barack Obama, who actually sent billions of dollars of cash to Iran. So I get that, but the difference now is that the president is actually protecting Americans. He's doing so with the strongest military force the world has ever seen. General Raising Cane is the right leader at the right time to achieve those objectives. And quite frankly, we are safer. This is a regime that not only chants death to America repeatedly, but they've used their missiles, their proxy forces, and their terrorists around the region and around the world.
It's not just Democrats. There are some Republicans who, like Thomas Massey, others, Senator Paul, the United States, they say, has not declared war, and Congress has not granted specific statutory authorization. How do you respond to that specific charge?
Well, Article 2 of the Constitution is very clear that it gives our commander-in-chief, the president, the ability to do this, and he's taking it seriously. In every capacity, he is protecting us. It was an imminent threat. I truly believe that. But don't look at just my word for it. Look at precedent. Look at Obama in Libya and many other presidents in the past 3 to 4 decades who have used this authority And the War Powers Resolution does require that Congress is notified, which we have been, and fully briefed on this.
Question I guess I get most is, what's your biggest concern? For you as a former fighter pilot, and now you're a member of Congress, what's your biggest concern tonight?
Well, I mean, this is an area of violence. I mean, we've seen that for so many decades there. So, you know, I'm praying for these, for all of the soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, guardians that are involved in this. I know many of them. I've trained many of them and flown with many of them in combat. So with all the concerns we have a commander-in-chief who is actually standing up for our military, for our country, and for our safety.
Congressman Pfluger, we appreciate the
Absolutely
comment.
right.
Thank you.
And he is standing up for us.
Up next, an illegal immigrant is accused of stabbing a Virginia woman to death. That has critics questioning why prosecutors didn't take earlier action after more than 100 prior police encounters. A federal trade court judge is ordering the Trump administration to begin refunding more than $130 billion in tariffs. This comes after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled last month that President Trump's global duties were imposed unlawfully. Judge Richard Eaton is directing U.S. Customs and Border Protection to start recalculating what importers should have paid without the tariffs and then refund the difference to companies that were charged. The Trump administration is expected to appeal the order to prevent it from taking effect immediately. Meantime, Canada and the European Union are agreeing tonight to expand trade ties and ease trade rules under their existing pact. This comes as countries across the world strive to increase trade and diversify away from the U.S. Separately, the European Union Commissioner for Trade says he believes the U.S. will honor the U.S.-EU trade deal. Dow Jones briefly dropped more than 1,000 points today after the price of oil spiked to its highest level since the summer of 2024. It finished down 785. The S&P 500 is off 39. The NASDAQ fell 58. Tonight we have another example of illegal immigration allegedly leading to a heinous crime. Critics are saying an ignored warning to Virginia officials about a repeat offender led to the death of a 41-year-old woman. This comes as the Homeland Security Department slams the Commonwealth's new Democratic governor. Here's senior national correspondent Rich Edson.
Police warned if Abdul Jalloh were out of jail, quote, it's not a question of if, but rather when he will maliciously wound or worse again. 3 months later, Fairfax County Police say he did just that, stabbing and murdering Stephanie Minter at a bus stop. Emails Fox 5 DC obtained show police last year requested prosecutors enforce a previously suspended sentence to keep Jalloh in jail. They report Jalloh had more than 100 encounters with police over the years, and that his, quote, offenses began with domestic violence incidents and escalated to assaulting other victims and threats with weapons, knives. He has been involved in multiple stabbing incidents. Now his case and Democratic Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger have drawn the attention of national Republicans.
She will not work with ICE if for some reason this monster gets released.
The Department of Homeland Security says Jalloh is from Sierra Leone and entered the U.S. illegally in 2012.
That
In
governor's
2020,
a total
judge ordered
dingbat.
his removal, but immigration officials have had challenges getting Sierra Leone to accept its citizens. Spanberger has reportedly told ICE to get a judicial warrant to deport Jalloh if he's ever released from jail in Virginia. On her first day in office, Spanberger signed an executive order that ended state police and correction agreements with ICE.
State and local law enforcement should not be required to divert their limited resources to enforce federal civil immigration laws.
Prosecutors are also facing criticism for dropping many of the previous cases against Jalloh, especially given his alleged violent history. The Fairfax County Attorney's Office says officials knew he was dangerous, but because he largely targeted homeless victims who were difficult to track down, they didn't have the witnesses to move forward. Brett?
Rich, thank you. Up next, the panel with the latest developments in the Iran conflict, Americans return home from the Middle East, plus the leadership shakeup at the Homeland Security Department, and then honoring the best of the best.
As an emergency physician, I
your price today at ethos.com.
You shut me off over there.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Well,
I forgot. Did you ask me?
yeah, but